choppers. Back on the scene, young conscious. Always been me, I'm poppin'. I ain't really here for the gossip, nah. Blah, 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 yeah, I'm blah, blah. Try to play me, but you tried it. Way too wavy, gotta ride it. Pull up on you, yeah, we sliding. Make our eyes roll when I slide in. Neck on wrist on shaman. Tell them say less, no comment. And we only here for the commas.
Ay, pull up and how about we slide? Loaded away from beside me. Beeline, skating on days we gliding. I'm hitting that in the driving.
Hitting that while we vibing. You know I be on that time and light up, I'm firing. Dress it up, yeah, I be styling. Eat up the drip, she be dining. Straight to the top, she be climbing. We the ones that they admire. All of these expiring. Ice of the boss and we hiring. Raising the hood where it's sirens. They hopping on ship like a pirate.
Ay, ay, driving the boat and I came for the loot and the tragedy. Be hating, do better. Dropping them ashes, done burn me a hole in my sweater. I'm stingy, I'm holding this cheddar.
Holding this cheese, living more better. Smoking these doobies with Xavier. We keep the gravy. Yeah, we too groovy. We keep it unruly. Know it's yours truly. Smoke a big head, call it Stewie. Bad chick, wanna do me. Thick and she coolie. She busted open like a Uzi. I busted, then I'm back to duty. Call of Duty, I'm online with it. Took my time with it. Watch the operators, they be plotting. On the go with the gang and they rock with us. Everywhere that we go, we be popping up. Yeah, we popular. Eyes on us like binocular. Yeah, they time is up. You could try your luck. Stay anonymous, but in God we trust.
In God we trust. All these looking odd to us. Riding way just like they ride the bus. Them pretty wanna ride my the vibe is us. Sergio Tacchini eating fettuccine. Know they see me getting cake. I've been out hustling at the dinner, baby. I'm a winner. I don't really need a break. Breaking my foot on your breaking the neck of these when I'm bending the corner. Breaking my in the glass. Burning that loud and the neighbors done heard the aroma. Play a persona. She eating my till she fall in the coma. The card of the itis. I really got it off the muscle. Now they wanna tussle. Wanna fight us.
All right, welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. This is your brother, DMG the Poet, aka Brother Pianki. We got a nice show for you with a powerful panel. Before they get into their spiel, let me do my usual spiel. Let me say God bless to my Christian brothers and sisters, Hotep to my Kemetic brothers and sisters. Let me say Shalom to my Israelite brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters in the NOI. Let me say Islam to my Moorish brothers and sisters. Let me say peace to my brothers and sisters in the nation of gods and earth, them 5%ers. Let me say what's up to my Abo brothers and sisters. Salute to my atheist brothers and sisters. Let me give a shout out to my Rasta brothers and sisters. And last but not least, let me say Jumbo to the rest of my brothers and sisters all throughout the African diaspora, be it here in the wilderness of the United States of America or beyond. Y'all know I say that greeting for one reason and one reason only. Is because if you're black, I'm with you, and I hope that you with me. Our different ideologies should not keep us from uniting, and we can't have unity without uniformity. We can eventually disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. Shout out to the Slim Reaper. And, with that being said, this is a discussion about race. We got our brother Ed Dodge. We got the political plug, Domo. We got AKA, AK Dre, I should say, Mr. Logic, Slim Reaper himself, Leandre McBride in the building. So I'm going to get out the way, let these gentlemen have this discussion. Ed, I'm going to let you start it off because it was your idea to have this show. And I'm going to be popping in and out with some questions on my own, but I'm going to let y'all rock.
All right. Hey, well, thanks, DMG, and peace and respect to everybody, to you, DMG, to Dre, and to Domo, and to the audience, and thanks for having me, and it's great to have this conversation. I don't have anything prepared here. There's been a lot of, a lot of talk about race these days, and I've got kind of my own perspective on things, and I want to kind of have a conversation with you all. And I've been having really good conversations with the Black community about my other work on goddess spirituality and stuff. So it's been a good conversation so far. And on all this, I don't even know where to begin on all this. I'll just start with saying where I'm from. Like, my whole background and why I wanted to have this conversation is that there's a lot of talk about, racial stereotyping about in all directions, right? Well, my family came here as like colonial settlers, like in the North, in the 1600s. I'm named for them, and so my family played a role in founding this country, and I've always been raised to be proud of that. And so, and I am proud of this country, and I am proud of my family's heritage. And at the same time, I recognize that there was a lot of stuff that was not done right in this country, specifically racism. And on the racism front, like this was a tremendous like crime, basically, against Black folks, against natives, and there's no excuse for it, and it didn't need to happen, and it's incredibly unfortunate. And I want to be a part of the conversation that's healing, getting beyond these open festering wounds, and then getting to a place of truth and reconciliation, have a full-fledged conversation about the whole thing. And at some point, I want to talk about the slavery aspect of all this, because I think a lot of folks are making racism and slavery into one conversation, and they're not. And they're certainly not, in my opinion, because from the perspective of the white Protestants that founded this country, only half of them, not everybody was engaged in slavery. And there was only slavery in half the country. And the northern half of the country, where my family was, like, we didn't have slaves, and we were fighting against slavery and fought for the Union in the Civil War. And the British Empire and industrialization ended slavery. We should get acknowledged that the slavery ended by the Americans and Brits. And like in the year 1800, there was just as many slaves as there had always had been until 1800 BC. But in 1900, it completely collapsed. You know why? Why did slavery end in the 19th century? And I wish that could be the whole story. I wish that was the whole story, and that we could end the story there and say, oh, that was great. We ended slavery, and that was great. But actually, it's not the end of the story, because I think the worst crimes of racism came after slavery ended, came during Reconstruction, came when Black folks were starting to get, on their feet, and then white folks came in and kneecapped them and burned down their houses and burned down their businesses, and it was all really an ugly crime against Blacks and Natives both, and that crime has not been resolved, and we need to get to a place where it is being resolved, and it's pretty hot, heated in the truth right now. People's emotions are pretty high. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'll pass it over to you guys and let you interject. Like, I want to be a part of the healing, and I want to be a part of the truth and reconciliation conversation, and defend my people where we did things right, and acknowledge the things we did wrong, and get to the place of healing those still open wounds.
Yeah. So thank you, Ed. So question for you, and I guess just starting out, so because it's a conversation about race, do you have a particular understanding of what races are? Like, what is a race to you? Like, so when you talk about whites or Blacks, like, what do you mean?
I mean, ultimately, it's like tribal groups, really. We're really talking about tribes. I mean, I view white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. We don't talk about ourselves as a tribe, but I think of it as tribalism, basically. And so, I mean, there's, I don't even know how to define race. This stuff is, I view it in terms of tribalism, really. And I know it's way different for Black folks who don't have a clear picture of their identity coming out of slavery, or a clear picture of your history and your family roots coming out of slavery. So it's a very mixed up picture for the Black community relative to folks like myself who know my heritage exactly and precisely.
Yeah. So on that note, and then Domo mentioned in hearing your perspective too on race and what race is. So on that note, so Ed, and this is, I guess, one of the ones that always makes it sort of raise an eyebrow, right, when talking to white folks about race, is that they're a category called white folks, right? And so we talk about specific heritage, the different tribes, clans, groups that would have come from all across Europe, and even though we always say, and we hear people say Caucasian, the brunt of people aren't from the Caucasus Mountains, right? So you got people from all over, and who would have been, prior to the sort of American story, would have been a part of varying different tribes, and even ones who would have warred. Could be the Brits and the Irish and the Scots and that sort of thing like that, right? You might be you might be Northern European, Eastern European, you could be a part of any one of these groups, right? And so I guess that's one of the interesting questions too, when we talk about race, because with Blacks, you talk about that sort of lack of history, that
clarity.
The lack of clarity on our history, or sort of our ancestral history, our lineage with respect to particular Central and West African tribes. So how do you understand whiteness itself in that perspective?
I mean, I'm like literally a white. My family roots are called white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Like my group of people literally called ourselves white folks. I don't know why they chose that term. It comes out of the Protestant Reformation, that's for sure. It's definitely a Protestant. I view it in terms of like I make a big deal in my mind between distinction between Protestants and Catholics coming out of the Reformation, and how the Northern Europeans, mainly Protestants, they're the ones who dominated the Spanish Catholics started the colonialism, and they were super nasty in the Central and South America. I mean, they were absolutely brutal to the natives down there. But then the Protestants came along and the British Empire defeats the Spanish. And then for the last 400 years, the Brits and then the Americans have been the dominant power. Like my folks have been the dominant power for 400 and some years, but we're like, our time is up. Like we're about to our time, and folks know it. So like China's rising, and we'll be able to mark it when China defeats our Navy in the South China Sea. That will be the bookend going back to 1588 when Queen Victoria defeated the Spanish in a big naval battle that set the stage for the British to rise in 1588. And it's going to go to 2028 or whatever when the Chinese defeat the Americans in the South China Sea. And those two naval battles will mark the bookends of white Protestant dominance of the planet. It'll be 400 and some years.
Well, although I object to your naval pessimism, I got you. Domo, what do you think? Race, what is
so? So I feel like I got a little clear kind of way that I understand what race is, and I describe race as a unilateral social hierarchy from top to bottom, right? So you have white at the top, you have black at the bottom, and then everybody else is kind of understood based on their proximity to those concepts. So, for example, you would have Asians who have a closer proximity to the top of that hierarchy. That's why they're called the model minority, right? And they're closer to whiteness. And then you have, let's say, immigrants from Latin countries who are closer to the bottom of the spectrum, right? Now, what's unique about that we got to understand is that, as you can see, when I'm talking about other groups, I'm specifically describing nationalities. But when we talk about white people and black people, the question of nationality it dissipates. And the reason why that is from the way that I understand whiteness, just from my studies, is that whiteness existed as what wanted to be set apart. So its introduction has more to do with distinguishing Europeans from the Africans and the darker Indians that they was coming into contact with, than it does more so their religion. Like the language kind of has that connection, but what we know is that if we look at the history of the word white, we're talking about a word that was shunned by men specifically, because to be considered white mean you didn't work. It meant that you weren't out in the sun. It means that you weren't doing things that would have you at least tan to some degree. White had more to do with women sitting in the home and again not having their skin be tanned by being out in the sun. And so you don't see that shift until you start to see Europeans attempting to distinguish themselves from darker people, right? And then on the flip side of that, you have blackness being introduced first as just a descriptor, but then it turns into in its origins, not necessarily its origins, but in the way that it moved across Africa, it became a denial of humanity. It became a denial of subjectivity. So if we look at how it started from a Latin cognate for dark to when it got to the Dutch and to the American colonies, it meant slave labor. And slave labor, again, denied the African of its Africanness. They got on the boat as Africans, they got off the boat as slaves, they got off the boat as niggers, right? And so from that perspective, if we look at that top and that bottom, we see both a dismissal of identity, but one dismissal of identity to create this form of superiority. That's why when Slim Reaper is talking about how all these different identities kind of get put on the back burner, like being German or being British or being Scottish or being Irish gets put on the back burner to be white. And then at the bottom of that hierarchy, the Africanness and the history of the enslaved African gets denied, and blackness forced onto them. You feel me? And then from that, even in, like you said, even as you suggest, when we get the end of the transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery in America, those identities have been solidified. Like now the only way we still only understand blackness from this perspective. We still understand whiteness from the perspective of being separated from the other, right? The non-normal, the deviant. You feel me? And so so I don't go too far, like on the rant.
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, the racial hierarchies is how people have been seeing the world, and it's the only thing I would add to that is that those attitudes are already there in the Ottoman slave trade for centuries. Those racial skin tone preferences predated the arrival of Europeans buying slaves. Because and one thing I want to talk about the slave trade is that slave trade was being run by African Muslims for many centuries before any Europeans showed up. And the East Coast slave trade, where they're running slaves up across the Sahara and into the Middle East, was even more brutal than the transatlantic slave trade. Not that justifies any of the crimes of the transatlantic slave trade, it just adds some context. So when white folks showed up and started buying slaves, all these racial preferences were already there, and they obviously ran with it and like amplified it and accelerated it because it would serve their benefits. And so, and as white Protestants became the dominant power, they took all these racial preferences, which were totally advantageous to them, and saw them as a sign of like their closeness to God. Basically, like whiteness is this is like the attitude that was like sort of underlying white self-identity from the perspective of being just the physical dominant power. They're seeing themselves as like favored by God, right? Like white Americans in the 19th century very much saw America as this like new Israel, and like this very much touched by God, favored by God. We are, and when you're seeing yourself be dominant, like it's easy to feel that way, right? When like you're winning the battles, it's easy to feel that you're favored. And so they associated this whiteness with, it's like if you see the Malcolm X movie, like that where they read the dictionary definition of white and black, and white is like the color of light and the color of clean and the color of angels, right? And blackness is the color of darkness and filth and degradation, all this, right? And how these words get used and impart this very subtle but very powerful, continuing self-reinforcing notion of who you are. And when you're dominant, you want to feel like be reinforced that you're great, right? And so, and it becomes totally wicked literally, in terms of our relationships to black people, because white folks would intentionally degrade black people in order to like create that reality, to manifest that reality. If like we only seem great if it's in comparison to somebody else being not great. So they would, whether intentionally, consciously, or subconsciously, would degrade black people over and over again in order to keep them down, in order to justify white people feeling up. And it's like, so and every time when black folks would get their acts together, like in Tulsa in the 1920s, and like white folks just came and burned the whole place down. And then for what reason? Just out of pettiness and spite and insecurity.
Well, no, I think it becomes it, and this is where I kind of start really getting into like a lot of racial nihilism. Is just that it's necessary. Like that type of violence is necessary to maintain whiteness. Like whiteness is, if we look at in all the instances in which it was in which it's establishing itself, it's doing so in the most brutal fashion available. And so that that type of violence, with that type of violence being we look at it like it's unique because it's just like, wow, that's crazy. But if we understand it for what its purpose is, it's not an aberration. Like that type of violence is necessary. Like so when you brought up the because I want to go back to when we talk about how slavery existed in other times. The first what we have to understand is that like it's people, there are groups in whether ethnic groups or tribes, whatever, who experienced what we call black people today an experience, and like their entire cultural identity is wiped to history. Like we don't know who they are. Like they were either completely assimilated into another group, right, or they were just wiped out as a people, right, and then anything that was left got ate up by whatever other group. The unique thing, the uniqueness of the Black experience and what has come from that is it's directly tied to the uniqueness of whiteness. Like what whiteness has become in his imperial efforts relied on what was necessary was chattel slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, and the subjugation of Africans. That was necessary. And so the empire that grew from that is its foundation. Like the greatness of America that we talk about, its foundation is the subjugation of enslaved Africans. So
I want to take a slight 50%. Because 50% was industrialized. America industrialized in the North. We weren't holding slaves in Rhode Island.
But in order, so actually, let me add something to that: the subjugation of the enslaved Africans and the genocide of indigenous Americans. Because even the industrialization of America relied on wiping out the indigenous.
Well, that one does speak to my family's heritage, and like I did look into what was going on between my family and the natives, because I was actually quite interested in what that story was. We could talk about that. Because that, I will make it very clear. I will always try to make clear the Blacks and the natives. We've got to have these conversations with both and the healing with both, because it was crimes against both folks. And they're two parallel but separate stories. They're each have their own unique story. And they're both equally important.
And I want to say this, and then Leandre, I'm gonna pass it on to you.
Yeah.
The other thing about what you said is what I thought was important to touch on is like how the conversation of slavery isn't just a single conversation, right? And I agree with you to an extent, because I think it's not just a question of race, but a question of capitalism. Like those are the two conversations that combine to create the racial circumstance that we have today. And so I think it's extremely important that we, because I ask everybody this question. And I'm pretty sure you will kind of see where I'm going with this. But if I was to ask you, who do you think have more in common, poor white people, or poor white people and rich white people, or poor white people and poor Black people, you would say,
oh, well, no, this is an important conversation, because like coming out of the Civil War, a lot of the reason why they ginned up so much racism, the upper classes ginned up racism, was to divide and conquer the poor whites and poor Blacks who were starting to get along with each other. And so when poor whites and poor Blacks were like starting to get their act together, it was upper class whites who ginned up the racism to divide the poor folks from getting along. And it hurt
something
both.
That
It hurt
something
the
that
poor
they
white.
Yeah, something that they still do today. And so we can't talk about the conversation of racism and slavery without also talking about capitalism. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, the upper class exploitation. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
The upper class, divide and rule, divide and conquer. That is the imperial. I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. And it's toxic. It's such a we do it. It's all over South America. We've been burning down every country that gets their act together. It's like our official foreign policy is anytime a country gets their act together, but if they're not going to be under our imperial thumb, we'll like do regime change. We'll assassinate people and spark civil wars and like turn these countries into chaos rather than just let them get their acts together and be self-reliant. And now we've got a refugee crisis of because we've got all these failed states south of the border. This is not healthy. This is not a healthy approach. We need to move beyond all of this divide and conquer, the racial hierarchies, all of this hierarchical stuff, man.
Ed,
so how do we move on? How do we heal? What's the next step to get to a place of healing, man?
Well, Ed, and I think what's important here. So once I'm gonna give my definition of race is that, but Ed, I want to take special note too, because I know a lot of times when you talk, and I want to make sure that so I want to give you an opportunity in a second here to define. So when you say we, because I think this is going to be one of the things important when you talk about what's necessary for healing, and I think it may be necessary too for what Domo's position is. So when you talk about American atrocities and even ones that you see as present atrocities and imperialism, things like that. When you speak of we, I'm interested when you say we, if you're speaking, talking about we as in white folks, like white ruling upper class, we as Americans. I'm interested in what you think about that, because if those things are still happening, I think it's going to be on your view. I think it's going to be interesting when we discuss remedies. But I'll just say for me, just to get my own racial perspectives on the table, I think that in slight opposition to what Ed was saying, I don't think that racial attitudes permeated prior to the United States. I do think that that they had tribalism, but I think that just with respect to nationalities and tribes, that those things that they could be mixed groups of people. Like I think like when you think of like the Greeks included people from the Ionian coast, like Turkey and things like that, right? With people from with folks from over in Europe and stuff. And so I think that 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 they definitely had war between different groups, things like that. But I think race is particularly unique to the American experience. I would say that even present day across Europe, nationalism and nationality is that's the front of the conversation. I think
I there's two. I want to say two things about that. I think I will actually make the case that skin color preferences in some capacity did exist, in the Ottomans. But there is a different element that happened with the Enlightenment, because you get scientific racism, and they introduce this as a science and start like trying to justify it, with all of this. If you go back a century, this is one reason why I'm pretty critical of academia, like because academia can be very, very wrong. If you go back a century to the 1920s, every leading college, university professor in the Ivy League, all of our politicians and presidents, they would all be espousing some variants of scientific racism and saying that white people are like obviously natural law superior to whatever, and say have all this phony data about whatever they were measuring, skulls and such. Everybody believed that stuff a century ago. At least that was the conventional wisdom, we should say, among our and that is like, that stuff was gross, man.
Well, so Ed, and so on that note, so for example, so like with me, so when I think of race now, so like in an American context, I think what we mean when we say race in the American context, I think it's two things. I think both of these, I think they're necessary conditions. One, that you're talking about ancestral lineage, but you're marrying that, I think, with physical characteristics, right? And so people who fit, and I think the primary thing there is talking about people who primarily fit certain physical characteristics with some bit of like ancestral experience. So like when we talk about blackness, what we're talking about, and I think that this is only with respect to blackness, I think here in the American context, because I think whiteness, I think that they discard the sort of ancestral lineage and even with respect to like physical characteristics, because it just means, I think a lot of sense is just lighter skin. But I think like historically, and I think somebody posted about it in the chat here too, and but I think it was actually partially historically wrong. But so for example, like with the Italians, these people weren't white until the 70s, and they had Italian civil rights organizations in the 1960s, who were likewise dealing with.
That's a Protestant Catholic thing.
Yeah, so because like with the Italians though, and like you read like the Dillingham Commission, Dillingham report, what you had being stated was like a lot of the groups that today like we might consider white, or like people, if they descended from these people in the United States today, we might consider them whites, but historically they weren't really considered whites. And one group, to give an example on the opposite side, who was considered more white, these are going to be the Mexicans. And obviously, they have a Spanish lineage, but they were considered more white and they preferred over the Swedes. And today we would view that sort of in opposite terms, because you had like Swedish immigration, which was like the largest group who were coming over here from Europe, during that period of immigration following the gold rush. But these people weren't really historically considered white. We call them white here. But so anyway, that's how I define race. But Ed, so when you speak of like when you talk about we in that sort of American context, right? Think about like what we're doing and what's been done historically. When you say we, are you speaking we as like white folks or we as Americans? What do you mean when you say we? You talk about.
I'm probably talking about my family heritage, specifically like. I don't know. That's a good question, because I got. What do I mean when I say we? It's like forcing me to think here. To a certain extent, I'm definitely talking about, how I view my family heritage of having, fought for the Union Civil War, fought in the Revolutionary War, fought in World War II. My family members and my father worked in the government. So like, I mean, there's that perspective for me personally, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
so
sure.
and let me tell you the reason I'm asking. Well, Domo, looks like you have something to say. I'll go after.
Yeah, well, no, go ahead, because I guess I had an easier way to answer this, or when we start talking about the like how to move away from racism and how to move away from race. So you can finish up on what you were saying, and then I'll chime in.
Well, yeah, well, and so because I was going to speak to the same topic, right? Because I think like it's important too, especially because on the one hand, right, if what you do is if you see yourself as and this sort of came in when you're talking about things that your family did. It's an interesting thing to me, and I was telling DMG this was the part that was interesting to me as I was sitting back thinking about it. If what you're doing on the one hand is if you include yourself in a way that I think will be sort of sympathetic to like the critical race theory sort of view, right? You have this sort of what I think is like ancestral guilt sort of thing, right? You know, you have this
sins of the father, right?
Yeah. So you know, if that's the case, and so if you are viewing yourself in such a fashion, right, without a break from that, right, or even if you're thinking that what you and your family has done at some point in time was do certain things, civil war, right? You know, fight for the Union in the Civil War, right? It could be enslaving. Employing free blacks and things like that. You could have helped on the Underground Railroad. If you're viewing it in terms of sort of group participation in these things with a sort of like white federalism, white federal head or something like that, right? Then I guess I wonder what sort of absolution is possible if those sorts of activities, if you view yourself as part of that group with that sort of paradigm, what sort of absolution is possible given the continuance of things as you see it now?
Absolution. I don't know. I mean, I'm basically of the opinion that like global civilization is heading into like a major crisis, and all of this social all this up. There's a lot of things there's a lot of social upheaval. Race is just one of the things people are arguing about, right? There's just tons of things that people are arguing about in our body politic being very disrupted right now. So I want to be a part of like what comes next. Like I really do think that both we've got sort of there's two competing groups claiming truth. You got reactionary conservative forces that had traditionally been arbiters of truth, religion and stuff for centuries, and then you've got Enlightenment thinkers, science-based folks, where there's other competing claims of truth, but they are very wedded to their scientific materialism and their secular humanism and their non-spirituality. I think these folks are also leading us into disaster. So I feel like both groups are leading us into disaster, and whichever side's in charge, it's trouble. And I want to be on the side that's like sidestep cataclysm.
But wouldn't you say though? So everything that you listed there, aren't these all Europeans or American or European descendant groups who are perpetuating these sorts of things?
Oh yeah. No, there's a revolt coming against the liberals in Europe and in America, and the right wingers are going to win in the near term.
You hear that, Domo? Write that down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's
my opinion. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but I
think he's right. But go ahead. But
nah.
Domo, what were you going to say with respect to
I mean, but this actually led me right into it, because here's the reality. At the center of all this, whether because we make it seem like race is like this like singular issue, and it's not a filter through which we understand all issues, right? So like if we're talking about the economy, it has a racial aspect to it. If we're talking about banking, it has a racial aspect to it. If we're talking about where people live, it has a racial aspect to it, because based on how you're racially categorized, that dictates how that experience goes. So when we're saying that we're trying to move away from that, what's fundamentally necessary is the destruction of what's understood as white identity. White identity cannot exist if we're saying that we're trying to move into a realm outside of these racial categories. That because the hierarchy is established by just that. It's the power structure, right?
Yeah,
and we can't we can't underestimate like how much that influences. So like even amongst this conversation we've been having, the language that we've used in a lot of ways is assumed. So when we say we is assumed. When we say the other is assumed. It's not always explicitly discussed. That's why even asking somebody to give a clear definition of blackness, everyone struggles, because these things are not concrete in terms of our existence. They're assumed based on our socialization. And so the
central frame of reference by which everybody else is compared.
Exactly, right? Whiteness has set itself up as the center, right? Whiteness sets itself up as the thesis. Blackness within that dialectical relationship is the antithesis. That was George Yancey, so I'm not gonna act like I just said that.
No, I 100% agree
top
with
of
you.
my head.
100% agree.
Because I wanted to make sure I gave credit where credit is due. Like that was a dope sentence. So I want to make sure people ain't thinking, oh, Domo said some real shit. That was actually the philosopher George Yancey that made that statement. And so in order to do that, in order to get rid of race and racism as its functions, we have to get rid of its center, and that is white identity. And because even the things that you discussed, what George Yancey describes as was the insidiousness of whiteness is that its ability to be fluid, its ability to not look the same, its ability to say let's end slavery, right? But whiteness as the ordering function still exists. Yeah, let's
totally. Like, I can actually speak to this. I can speak to this exactly. It's like when, all right, so after the post-civil rights, as we go into the 1970s, and straight up segregation starts to break down, and white folks start to be like, all right, we'll let you all into the country club. Certain black folks, we'll let you into the country club. We're not going to exclude you specifically because of your melanin content. But when you come into the country club, you better talk like us, act like us, have an education similar to us, confirm to all the same white folks don't want to change. We'll let you in the door as long as you act like us, but don't come in your Kunta Kinte robes and your jungle music. You got to come in appropriate, right. Dressed appropriate, talking appropriate, and then it's all right. And that's how it's been. That's the sort of I don't see race attitude as we shifted from I do see race and we're bigots, which was bad, to I don't see race, which was better than being a cracker, but not good enough to heal the wounds. Now do we need to how do we actively bust open this kidney stone and get it out of the body politic?
So on that note, I guess, and this is one really just of I guess I'm sort of challenging that as devil's advocate sort of fashion. So did you not see the same sort of, because what group would your people have been from?
What's that?
So what state were your people in? Which colony would they have come to?
Rhode Island. They were founding colonists in Rhode Island.
Okay. And so with your folks up there, right? Would they not have viewed sort of historically? By the way, awesome book on this too. It's called White Trash. Domo, have you read the book White Trash?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
So Nancy, what's her name?
Let's see.
As a matter of fact, it's back here behind me. Her name is Nancy Eisenberg. But anyway, so on that note, and it's a really awesome set of books too. I got back there on the crackers and rednecks, things like that, right? And so reading some of the stuff about them, I guess do you, and this I guess is more of a question about because I guess what I see behind that sort of thinking is, and this is where me as a conservative, this is where I end up having issues, right? I think.
Oh yeah. By the way, we have two opposing, different political ideologies.
We told them. We told them. So as a conservative, so I raise issue there because for me, and I'm thinking, especially when you want to talk about healing, when we talk about what the end goals are, I don't see how without enforcing social cohesion, in that way, right, with common language, with mores, with folkways, with ways of doing things, with common education, I don't see how this sort of thing is possible. And so even I think if I took Domo's view, right, that we needed to revolutionize in some sense there, I guess I don't necessarily see the issue with groups needing to partake in the dominant culture, and I guess just because I don't see a nation that's ever existed or survived without that, and so I guess, and so I think when I think about specific groups, like the rednecks, like the crackers. Like it's a really awesome book I got on the Florida Crackers. Really amazing book. Just when you look at the sort of things that were said about them, you had the same sort of attitudes, like rejecting their music, rejecting their speech pattern, rejecting their style of dress, their work ethic, like any number of things, the wanton fashion in which they had and produced children out of wedlock, things that, and so you had this idea
that you was gonna do this shit, Leandre.
Hey, so I guess, and I guess this is a question for both of you. Is there any value in a nation or society and a people group having uniformity?
I think all right, I'm gonna be honest. It's difficult answering this question as a black man in the United States, because the type of uniformity that you're saying has existed in certain places or has the possibility to exist. It's never been we have never had the ability to be a part of who determines what's uniform.
You mean like in the new world?
Where we live, right?
Gotcha.
Like so it's like, okay, I'm cool with social cohesion, but what is the center? What's our stasis point? You feel me? So even if we say, okay, well, our stasis point is America. Okay, cool. Then what does it mean to be American? Right? Because we can recognize that words like patriot are racialized. Right? Like a patriot has a race to it. It's a white man, you feel me? American flag waving, soldier. You know what I'm saying? To some degree, we have a very clear picture, because when you see black people who engage in the same behavior, because the media tells us how we think, that language ain't applied the same way. You feel me? And so from the perspective of where we would stand with uniformity, it's like, yeah, cool. Give us a stake. Allow also not just, well, we all have to look the same way, but shit, where do we fit in and how that looks? Because we know, and this is where we start getting into the kind of reality of identities. We know black people too damn open. We give out N-word passes. We invite motherfuckers to the picnic.
Hey, real quick, Domo. I'm sitting in my living room the other day, right? On that note, I'm sitting in my living room the other day, right? I kid you not, and all I hear is nigga, and it's going crazy like outside my house right now. I live in an all right neighborhood, so I'm sitting there, right? It ain't but two black families on this street. That's just what it is, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm going, what in the hell is going on, right? And so then I get up. I don't know what's going on in the world. I grab a pistol and I go look out the window, right? As I'm looking out the window,
bunch of little white boys.
This was little white kids and mostly little Mexican kids. They going up the street. It's a crowd of them. And all I hear is nigga, yeah, nigga. And I'm like, what the hell is it? But anyway, get back to your story, Domo.
But that's more so of my point, right? So it's like if we look at cohesion from the perspective of, like, if we just use black people as an example, shit, we can be cohesive. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to look like us. Like, my barber was just showing me a white rapper from the neighborhood he grew up in. It's all niggas in the video with the white boy.
Yeah, right now.
You know what I'm saying? With the white boy. So, like, our understanding of uniformity, like the genius thing that DMG say, it don't require you to conform. You feel me? We just gotta have a singular focus, a single thing that we care about. But the type of participating in the dominant culture, the way that we understand it today is anti-black. Like the aspects of blackness that make us who we are, we have to hide, we have to conceal, we have to code switch, we have to change our language. But there's no space where and really, when you look at that space, that's the valuable space, that's the space you want to be, then all of those pro-cultural spaces, those pro-black spaces, are demeaned in that instance. They don't have the same value. Oh, if you can participate in all this pro-black, pan-African, all that type of shit, and that's cool. But if you really doing something, you up here with them, and you're moving, behaving, and talking the way that they are. You feel me? So that's why it's like I would love to be like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? We like a real melting pot, and that's what we reflect, a melting pot. You feel me? So, like conformity. What if conformity was diversity?
So
I ain't got no issue with that, but we haven't seen it look like that.
So if I'm understanding, so Domo, so you think, I disagree with you, by the way, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding your point. So you think that in you think that if something like that was going to work, it would necessitate that what you have is space for blackness, space for cultural distinctiveness.
Yes.
Is that fair? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And Ed, same question to you. What's your view on uniformity as and social cohesion as?
I think we can have a diverse culture, a diverse a multicultural society. But there has to be without that. I mean, and America has, at its best, has a strive for that. It just hasn't lived up to it. But I think that there has to be some measure of first principles.
Okay.
That we can all agree on, and then have the space to do our own thing.
So how about, and this question to both of you, and this is, and Domo, I'll give you an opportunity to define this for any people who may not understand what I'm saying here. So like, is there room for a counter? Is there room for not just subcultures, right? Talk about dominant culture, right? And Ed, I think this is what you're sort of nodding at, right? You can have the first principle sort of dominant culture, right? And then and then the room for subcultures. I guess my question to both of you is there room for counterculture?
I think it's inevitable.
It depends on the authorities, if the authorities tolerate it or not. I mean, some authorities don't tolerate counterculture. Some religious authorities,
what I mean is room in a sense that it won't threaten the very fabric of the society itself. Like if I
it's actually seditious or not,
No, I think it necessitates. I think it's required like that. And again, this is why I say like the way that we understand it, the way that we understand what the dominant culture means and what conformity looks like, it's been socialized to us from the understanding of whiteness, and getting rid of that, like getting rid of difference, is a key aspect of how whiteness operate. Undermining difference is a key aspect of how whiteness operate. But if we look at the reality of it, like counterculture is another expression of diversity. That's why when I even like I'm cool with Leandre, even though the world teaches us that Democrats and Republicans are the new Bloods and Crips, and they hate each other and they have nothing in common and they don't talk about anything. You know what I'm saying? All they want to do is fight, right? It's so, but like from that perspective, I can say we both like if we say first principle, we both black men in the United States. We have a very common experience, regardless of what our political ideology is. So I want what's best for him, because what's best for him ends up being what's best for me. First, like operating off that principle alone, we can have different paths that we could take to get to that point. But if I'm able to recognize that what benefit him, benefit me, what benefit his family, benefit my family, that's enough for us to be able to say, like, okay, cool. Your path to achieving that, I'm gonna respect that. I don't agree with it, but I'm gonna respect it, and I'm gonna stay out of your way. You know what I'm saying, and vice versa. You feel me? And that's why we don't have. I'm telling y'all, what's been nothing more of a struggle in these last few election cycles is getting people to think outside of binaries, like getting people to understand that it isn't like, and pun intended, everything ain't black and white. You know what I'm saying? Like we function within that understanding, but getting people to recognize that that's not the only understanding that exists is a very difficult problem. Like, and again, the Democrat Republican is the easiest way to kind of understand that, because it has a racial divide. You feel me? Even though you got people on both sides, and it has exactly. You feel me? And trying to tell somebody like, listen, I can be critical. I'm critical of Donald Trump, but Joe Biden. Okay, I'm critical of Biden, but Trump. Those are the binaries that we operate from. You feel me? So when we're saying diversity, for example, which is something that's heavily pushed back against, folks, specifically white people, yeah, of course, but white people think like, oh, diversity means getting rid of me. Diversity means me not existing. Like if it's more people that look like them, then that means that it's possibly going to be less people that look like me. And because white people operate from that understanding, that's why they have such visceral responses to difference. I mean, the Great Replacement Theory establishing itself in the United States is a perfect example of that. Like just having like the existence of blackness threatens what whiteness represents. So it has to.
I mean, not all white folks are threatened by ethnic, but some white folks definitely are, and they're feeling it right now, and they're getting more and more agitated, and they're very agitated because they don't
I
want
mean,
to.
and it's like I get that it's not. I get that it's not all white folks, but it's a like whiteness is a structure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's just like eight. Like let me see, like what 13% of black men in Georgia voted for Donald Trump. Shit, that still don't change the fact that we Democrats or black people heavily voted for Democrats, and that's what helped influence how that election turned out. You feel me? Like because even on in very small levels, as much as because I've been around people who talked about how much they enjoy diversity and what that meant to them, but then at the same time still respond the same way when diverse elements are presented. Not even just people being there, but the diverse ways that people talk, different levels of understanding, all of those things. And so it's like we as Americans, we want to be that. Like American culture want to be that. There's a lot of white people that want to be that. But the one thing that we have to recognize for all of us, black, white people, everybody that's been socialized by the United States, racism is our default. That's where we start from. That understanding of whiteness is where we start from. And then as we start to learn more about the world and more about how these things work, that's how people start to pull themselves from it. But it's our initial response. And that's why you got people like Charlie Kirk and even what's her name? Candace Owens. It's like if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna get nervous. This is what it is. If I see a woman or a black pilot, I'm gonna get nervous.
Crazy statement.
Yeah, ridiculous statement. But it comes from a natural distrust for black men, period. That he's embraced. That Charlie Kirk is okay with.
Question for both of you. And this is something I wrote this down, or I was typing a bunch of notes as you were talking, actually, because I think it brings us to give me your views on stereotyping. Now, neither one. Domo, you running for office anytime soon?
I've been in the shit. Give me another 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know if that's anytime soon.
Then don't give me your views on stereotyping.
No. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm gonna be honest, because like nobody inspired me to run for office like Donald Trump and be yourself. Goddamn it. That's just how I feel about it. But
you can stand in the middle of 4th Avenue and shoot someone. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I could just be more honest about things. I don't gotta be. You know what I mean? But I think that stereotyping is actually is a natural function of the brain to make shit easier, like for the brain to understand. Like, so the brain has a faster reaction if it could, you know what I'm saying, see something and immediately categorize it into
pattern recognition.
Right. You know, that type of shit. So it's like, it's not stereotyping. You know what I mean? It's more so the programming that the brain has went through and where those you know what I'm saying, where those types of things go. You feel me? Like, I don't think we can stop stereotyping.
Okay, so I know you said how we see people, though. So I know you said it was natural. So now the morality of it, good or bad, you know, good, bad, you know, it depends. Like, what is it? Like, where does it stand on morally?
I think it's.
I mean, stereotype you have. I mean, if you're demonizing people out of just stereotypes, then it's bad morally.
Okay. So you have a negative view of stereotyping, right?
I mean, I'm gonna agree, Domo. I think it's mainly just a pattern recognition, and then, but how you use it and how it gets deployed can be good or bad.
Okay. So there are good instances of stereotyping. You would say it.
Again, from like a mental shortcut processing way.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So like, for example, like if I don't know, either of you live near a zoo?
I live like next to I guess the LA Zoo.
I lived next to the National Zoo in DC for a while.
Yeah. So let's imagine, right? You know, I go get one of those tigers from the zoo, right? I bring it, I let it loose in your room, without stereotyping. How would you react? Would you react at all? I'm
gonna be afraid with or without a stereotype. But I might try.
Listen, I'm gonna make it. Hold on, Dre. I'm gonna make it easier for you. All right. If I'm walking down a dark street and I see some niggas in hoodies on the, you know what I'm saying?
You can't run for office now. I just don't want to.
No, it is what it is. It is. I got a whole podcast where I say shit like this all the time. So this is what I'm running on. Honesty, right? I mean, and balance. Because I think that's what's missing is balance. If we look at stereotyping from a balanced perspective, shit, I've been robbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, if I say I've been robbed, here's where the stereotyping is productive come into play. I'm in a similar experience that I've been robbed before, similar people, you know what I'm saying, that look like they rob niggas is, you know, in my vicinity. So should I risk it and just be like, well, maybe they ain't up to no, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they ain't up to nothing. Or should I find ways to go around in the alternate routes to get out of this similar circumstances? That's a place where stereotyping is productive. But now let's say I've been robbed before, and I see anybody that looks the race of the person that robbed me. Anybody looks like like any Mexican guy or any Asian guy or any black guy. Because the only time this doesn't happen is with white people. Nobody will be like, I was robbed by a white person and now I'm scared of all white people. Nobody says that. But with everybody else, shit. If once you turn it into, I was robbed by a black person, so like all black people are thieves and robbers and stay away from them, then that's when stereotyping is turned into something else. Because it's not about survival in a situation like the tiger. Yeah, I'm just finished with this. It's not like a survival situation with the tiger. You've allowed that stereotype to then turn into how you understand people. Like it seeped into your socialization and ideology. And now that's where you have a problem, because just because you walk past a black person don't look nothing like the nigga that robbed you, and you like, you know, they steal. It's like, what the like that? Like, okay. Now we talking about some evil shit, because now you didn't kind of put this man's life in jeopardy.
So Domo, you want to see a white dude squirm?
Yeah.
Okay. Now watch this. Now, let's set it in perspective, right? Because Domo, I don't think your example gave enough, right? So I want you to imagine. So one, you've been robbed by some black people, and this we're gonna make the white dude squirm here in just a second. You've been robbed by some black people. Not only that, but if you listen to some of our expressions in our art, you know, things like that, being a robber might be a badge of honor. And I'm sure you would agree that there's some people in their expressions of art, this is a badge of honor, right? You know, and you know, we have some of us in the sort of neighborhoods like where I come from, it's a good thing, right, to be more ruthless, more heartless, and you actually achieve social status as a result of how cold you can be, how ruthless you can be. We had a group of people when I was young. I lived on a street called Peach and Olive. I think I was 15. It's on the east side Fresno. Peach and Olive. It's a Crip neighborhood over there. And I'm living over there. I'm from the west, but we was living on the east side. Anyway, we were living over there, and there was a group of us, and we had a little game we played every Friday called KOM, and it stands for knocking out. And I won't say what the M is for in case I ever want to run for office. But and this is something that that we did every Friday night. So I want you to imagine, right? And so let's say you see this on the news. Like the knockout game is big on the news. It's perpetuated everywhere. And Domo, you talked about this, some sort of media representation, right? You know, and I definitely think that there's something to that, right? Sort of magnification in media. So now, that being said, right? So we're talking about at least this sort of iteration of a subculture, right? There's a group of us, and I'm saying us meaning because I was a part of that group at one point in time, not us as black people as a whole, because I don't think that's the case. But let's say that your interaction or your understanding of that of the racial group came from this sort of like zoomed in look at this
like one
large minority, you know, within the community, right? Not the community as a whole, but this, and it's zoomed in there, right there, right? Ed, let's say that this is all the stuff you've seen. This is all the stuff you've heard. You heard about a dude named Domo being robbed. And these are the people with this particular phenotypical expression. You also heard their art forms and how, you know,
this is not a difficult scenario. I mean, this.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do?
It's called white flight. The white folks leave the cities.
Yes. So you are walking up the street. I'm wearing a hoodie. Domo's wearing a hoodie. DMG's wearing a hoodie. You don't know us from can of paint, but we look like some of the people you've seen on TV. And you know, you're in an alley. We start walking your direction. What happens in your stomach when you see us?
Oh, it's called the flinch, man. It's called the flinch. And white folks they cross the street, man. Like it's not new, and it's not some people really talk about. But yeah, they call it the flinch. And
is it good?
Black folks go seeking the flinch. You can tell sometimes a black guy be walking hard, walking like, you know, and he'll be looking to make a white guy flinch. And so that dynamic is definitely there on the street on a daily basis.
Now, is that stereotyping? And then is it good? Yes or no?
I mean, it's a social dynamic. I don't think it's a very good one. Well, I mean, like if people are actually going to be criminals, then like it, as Domo said before, like, yeah, it is going to be. I am gonna cross the street if I
Well,
feel
well,
genuinely
I know,
threatened,
but think back on the scenario. You don't know us. It's three of us
Right.
were wearing hoodies. You're in a dark alley. So is that feeling that you get in your stomach, right? That flinch there that you're feeling. Is it stereotyping? And I just want to know if is it morally good in that particular setting? Is it good? You see three of us, we three Negroes. We got these hoodies drawn. You know, you heard a lot about us. This is like the tiger scenario. This is the reason why I gave the tiger scenario. I've never met a tiger personally.
I mean, better safe than sorry. I don't know if it's moral or not, but I'm gonna, everyone's gonna be better safe than sorry. And
yeah, well, see, and so this is so far, and I get what you're doing, Leandre. I understand what it is that you're doing. Because I guess a part of it is understanding that like Ed, like you would say, Ed, you do there are instances where you would flinch, where you would kind of see the possibility of that being true and being like, you know what, I ain't trying to be racist, but this shit look dangerous, and dip out. The problem though is like that reality is what is kind of what maintains the like the hierarchy. It maintains the imaging. It maintains the pathology, because it's like that means that we can't escape that pathology. And if we can't escape it, in one instance, the flinch is just, I'm across the street. The other instance is, hey, it looks like some guys that's robbing some shit. You guys should come check this out. You feel me? Like those, like the things that we don't even think about, it ends up playing out in these ways to where even the most, this is why, like, I don't like the white liberal, like I'm with every criticism of the white liberal. I consider I'm a black leftist. Anything you have to say about the white liberal, I'm telling you, I could probably break, like I could explain it even fucking better. And so I think like this idea that we have the possibility to be kind of like have the racial things how they exist today, and it all kind of work together. We got to get rid of this shit entirely. Like the way that we understand identity has to be completely destroyed. There's nothing that we can hold on to that won't recreate this type of shit. And what the problem is that the same people in power are the people that's benefiting from it. So they have no incentive. Like right. we overly focus on disadvantage, and that's why black people get called victims. But the reality is the advantage only exists because there's an obvious privilege, right? If like the fact that we have studies that explain that if your name sounds too black, you more likely to not get a job than if you just got a name like John, you know what I'm saying, or Ed, you know what I'm saying, like that. Those names, you got it, like you good. But if your name look like it come from the hood, the chances of you getting that job slim to none. You feel me? Like and that's just that's just like just one example of the many ways that that our society literally lets you know. You know what I'm saying? What value looks like and what does it in terms of how we understand people. You know what I mean? Yeah. That means I don't want to rant.
So I gave those two. No. That was all solid. So I went that direction for two reasons. One, because I think it's sort of important, even to the conversation when understanding, like maybe how white folks experience black people, and wondering how much of that sort of thing colors our experiences and what we've viewed, and again, even with media representation, right? How that sort of thing, because maybe we've zoomed in really, really close, with a group of white people. So I was trying to be fair to Ed as well, with those sorts of things, and that way we could talk about sort of remedies, because I guess like even with that perspective, like in talking about what a sort of subculture and not a subculture, but a counterculture that might exist in among some inner city folks, right? And how we may have sort of zoomed in on those people, right? I do wonder if in a lot of ways, if that's not some of the same thing that's happened, is like, have we zoomed in on a specific type of white person with specific ideas, and we've sort of like patterned this sort of out without merit. So like with respect to Ed's position, right? Like maybe what I'm doing is stereotyping, and maybe there's some instances where something like that is good, because if it's 5-6 white dudes with with white hoods on, and I'm walking up, what I'm saying, I'm gonna react a certain way. I might pull a blick out.
With guns though, you're gonna react in a certain way. You got 5 white guys with pack and heat.
Exactly. And
5 white boys in polos and cargo shorts. Yeah,
exactly. Like, or you know, they got the lifted truck. They got the lifted truck. You know what I'm saying? They made eye contact with me. I'm saying it's the big Confederate flag hanging out the back. I'm like, all right. So what's this about to be? So you know, so and I think that both of those really, like, I'm sympathetic to both positions because I don't know. I think that there's. I think stereotyping has some good uses, but with that too, and I guess sort of what the question is and Domo, I disagree with your pessimism too, because I think if they're stereotyping, I think if they're stereotyping, like for me, and this is where I want to go next too, with trying to figure out, like, so Domo, and it sounds like a lot with your presentation, sounds like at least what's suggested, or at least what I hear when you talk about sort of ways to overcome the sort of situation. It sounds something akin to some sort of revolution. And I don't know if that's, and I'm not talking about like a narrow view of revolution where it means like fighting in arms. That may be what you mean, but I don't think it, I don't view revolution as that narrow, but
right.
But so, like, with the stereotype question though, right? Like for me, I guess I wonder who the onus is on. Like, let's say these stereotypes exist. And this, I think, goes to, to Ed's position on this thing, right?
Yeah,
because Ed approaches the subject talking about him, the work he's done, his family's done, things like that. And I do wonder if, again, this goes back to the question of absolution, right? And how Ed seems to be trying to overcome these stereotypes, and wondering if Black folks, if there's activities, things we can do to overcome these stereotypes as well. But anyway, yes. So with the question of solutions, who's the onus on, right, to change the stereotypes, to change the view that the other racial group might have? Because we're in America, we have to deal with racism, and the sorts of race permeating lots of conversations. Who is the onus on? And it's a question to both of you.
White people.
So white people. Okay, that was easy.
Yeah, I mean white people for sure. But I think that we need new ideologies to, like, and new ideas to, like, that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of my other work that got me in touch with DMG in the first place. That I write on the Mother of God in the Bible, and how there was a divorce, and they got rid of the goddess. And that then in early Christianity, it was up for grabs whether there was going to be Mother, Father, the Trinity of Mother, Father, Son, or Trinity of Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And when they got rid of the Mother Goddess, these old goddess traditions, and specifically the Isis tradition in the late Roman era, in the Roman world, it was explicitly a universalist religion that was transcendent of race and religion back then. These ideas back then were, the idea was that she transcended class and you belong to everybody. And she was the mother of God, so she's the mother of everyone. And I think that this is it can be a good way to, like, introduce a new conversation piece, a new catalyst for a conversation about that actually has a legacy of being transcending race, and can be a good way to introduce some new concepts, to just start having a fresh conversation instead of beating around the same talking points that we've been beating in circles for years. And Marxism with spirituality. Like my criticism of Marxism is that is that there's no spirituality, there's no soul to it, and it's godless. Well, I think that is the problem of Marxism. That is the fundamental problem of Marxism. That's why it never took root in America, because it's a
I would say that's an ancillary aspect of it, though. I mean, because especially if you're dealing with the haves and the have-nots, there was a unique relationship between the haves and religion. You know what I'm saying? God seemed to always be on the side of the haves.
In the organized religion, it certainly is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And so, and the organized religions is like that connection between the organized religions and the elitism, you know what I mean, that Marx was describing, is what makes an ancillary conversation of what makes Marxism, what I think makes Marxism beneficial. But in terms of what when we talk about who the onus is on, I think because there's no way to kind of just like wipe the memory of racism out of everybody's heads at once, I think that the onus is on, like, as much as it's on white people socially, it's also on the government. This is where my, this is where my leftism comes out. Like, I thoroughly believe, even though a lot of the limits, that we have, like with the Civil Rights Act and certain amendments that just straight up tell you cannot make like policy that benefit one group of people, I think that's what's necessary. Because if we were to have more way, breathe, Leandre, breathe. But if we had a more of a hand And Malcolm X described this, right? Malcolm X described this in the Ballad of the Bullet. And the part of the Ballad of the Bullet that people ignore the most is at the end, he said that the United States was poised to have the first ever bloodless revolution. The first ever bloodless revolution. And he was talking about in the context of being politically engaged, politically mature, politically involved. And if we were able to use the political system that we have now to be able to remedy the issues that Black communities deal with specifically, right? Because if you create a policy for a community and that community is mostly Black, you feel me? Then we able to get around these conversations of, well, you can't just make it for a specific people. No, it's for this specific group. We live in an extremely segregated country. Let's not act like all of our communities is just super mixed. You know what I mean? And you got to be careful about whose policies is benefiting who. And so with like the idea that we can have a bloodless revolution that is centered around us being politically engaged and seizing political power in like specifically majority Black neighborhoods, I think then that's the way that race starts to become this again, this secondary aspect, because it's like we have the conditions set up to where if Black people were more in charge or not necessarily in charge, but in more elected positions that made decisions about the communities that they lived in, then a lot of the things that we deal with will be fixed. We wouldn't have
now. Domo.
Hold on, Dre. Before your head explode. Because the Marxism lacking spirituality thing brings up a question that I wanted to bring to all of y'all, and that's and it speaks to Kayel's comment about or question. Let me go back to it so I can bring it up. What is the cross section, if you believe there's one, but what is the cross section between religion and racism, and what has been the impact?
I have 2 words for you: white Jesus. As long as white Jesus is our God in America, we're living in a racist country. And so we need
hold
to
your breath. Don't hold
Jesus.
your breath, Leandre. You next, Leandre. You next.
Almost passed out. All right.
It doesn't mean we have to get rid of Jesus. It just has to not be a white Jesus.
Leandre, put on your Slim Reaper mask for this one.
Actually, let me make it worse for him by answering it real quick.
Oh, go ahead, Domo.
Like our social and political goals should be distinct from our religious identities.
Wow, Domo. Wow.
Say that again.
Hold on, Leandre.
First an Ed's comment.
Leandre, I know you're a young man. But are you all right?
Yeah.
You ain't holding. I don't see you holding your chest.
Hey.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Well, as opposed to critiquing you the response, I'm just going to say I'll answer the question. I would say that there really is no cross section. I think it was advantageous socially to create a racial system because it kept you with a class, and I think the same sort of thing is prevalent elsewhere around the world. I think with the hukou system in China that exists today, or like even with respect to the Uyghurs over in China today.
Man, thank you, Leandre. Thank you.
So
nobody talks about the Uyghurs.
Yeah.
You got genocide in Israel that's happening. You have what's happening. You have, the Syrian conflict and all that. You have the Ukrainian conflict and all that. Man, it's people in concentration camps today in China.
Ladies and gentlemen, we.
So I'll just say that and I think Aesop said it the best. The tyrant always finds a pretext for his tyranny, and so in different contexts, when this sort of thing is not,
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
If it wasn't race that was used to like justify the dominant groups, it would have just been something else.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is why like when you can go anywhere, right? And I'm talking about, you can go to ancient Greece. You can talk about the relationship that the Spartans had with the Messenians, right? There was a consistent and constant subjugation of these people. They went on raids every night, just going to tax people. Like it was part of the way that they continued to propagate and prop up their system. And this is something that tyrants will do. And so whenever you're dealing with tyranny, you're going to have the tyrant figuring out what I need to say. And so in Aesop's fable, with the wolf and the sheep, what it was is like he kept trying to, imagine that there was some offense that the sheep had committed against the wolf, so the wolf could justify killing him. He just didn't want to feel like a bad person. And so I think what you have is that. And so for me, it's not. And I don't think like it's a sustainable thing, because when you have to take a sort of global and a historical look at it, you're going to find that there were justifications, whatever it is. And so I think that the conflict is something that's necessary to the human condition, and I think that people will create just various conflicts. And this is where my sort of conservative pessimism comes in. And conservative, because we sort of like to start with the understanding that humans are just screwed up creatures from the beginning, and so with that, there's going to be some flaws and there's going to be some conflict stuff that follows. So I think for me, that that with respect to the race question, that's not, and it's part of the reason why with the Nerdy Brew, their response is right, that you didn't see the sort of attitude elsewhere. It was advantageous here, and so if it needs to justify and say, well, God said this, and by the way, I do just want to say that Jews with the pale skin, that came up in Egypt, but so it had nothing to do with whiteness. It's just people created Jesus in their own image, which I think is a problem. But anyway,
yeah, the papal bulls never mentioned, what I'm saying, like what the people look like. They was just like, if this is what they doing, here's the justification.
Yeah,
we can take all this shit. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. But there is an interesting question in the chat, real quick, DMG. And I want Edward's perspective on this.
Domo,
would you worship a black Jesus?
What's that?
Would you worship a black Jesus?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have no problem with that. I have a friend of mine who is Ethiopian. She's Coptic, and so I was asking her about white Jesus. She was like, "Honey, I'm Coptic. My Jesus has always been black, and my black Jesus is older than your white Jesus." So,
that is what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, Ed, I want you, because if your wife is Coptic, I want you to show
Not
her.
my wife. It was just a friend of mine.
Okay, friend of mine. I'll show your friend the Christ Pantocrator painting from Egypt, 565 AD. As a matter of fact, I usually have it as a screensaver on my phone. But matter of fact, let me pull it up. See this one, this image here, that image of Jesus. This is from Egypt. From what was one of the oldest churches. One of the oldest churches anyway. So, and it was hidden during the iconoclasm sort of thing there. But the Ethiopians, 16th century or so, they do have black Jesus reliefs. Even has like a little fro sort of thing. And this is what I say. And like I have a whole book of like.
Right. I knew you was white.
Listen, this is an Egyptian.
Like you've been passing as black all this. I knew you was white.
That dude that's an Egyptian painting,
man. When my channel was black only, I was breaking the rules having you on here.
Listen, first of all, listen, I'm a Negro. You see, it says Negro spiritual. Can y'all still see this?
I think that's a front. I think you like the lady that was head of the NAA.
Oh, if you call me Rachel Dolezal, I'll pull up.
I feel like that's what he was doing, man. I feel like anyway. Go ahead.
That's Ed. Ed is right. No, I'm just joking. But no, so I would just say and that's what I think too. And so like to goofy astral projections comment, as long as it's a Christian nation, it's going to be a race nation. That's nonsense. Particularly because too, and again, and I know he doesn't know this because he's astral projections. Y'all, yeah, I'm going to digress for a second. Y'all forgive me. I know he
don't do it. Just address the comment. No.
Look. That's nonsense, right? Because and this is where I know people who live in 21st century America, right? When they make those sorts of comments, you just don't actually understand the Christian. What Christians have contributed to the conversation, like the entire issue of rights in the first place. These are Christian conventions, right? And so when you talk about like all the things
you call them God-given rights.
Yes, because these are God-given rights. But like historically, going all the way back to the Roman Empire, it was when the Christians came to power. And when Theodosius made it a Christian nation, not Constantine, as goofy astral projections things. When Theodosius made the Roman Empire a Christian empire, right? This is when this is when things about rights came to be. It's when Christians had an opportunity to legislate what their ideas were. And so this whole idea, even that there's something inherently wrong with racism as a whole in the first place, this is a problem if you're going to reject Christianity, because where are you getting this from? right? Because how are you going to get past the divine rights of kings and these ideas that existed in non-Christian nations in the first place, right? That if I'm part of the upper class, if I'm part of the ruling class, if I'm a Spartan and not a Messenian, that I can do what I want to these people. And there was no moral basis for challenging this. This came as a result of the Christian religion, respectively. And so it's just it's not even a debate. It's not even a question. And he said rights into our Christianity. I tell you what, Naomi, you let me know when you'd like to discuss this, and you and I will get into the actual history of it. We get into the actual history of rights.
This is my last question for y'all, and it's a twofold question. So why do we, and I'm including myself, we as Black people lean heavily to all things racial, whether it's the history of racism, race as in our racial adjacency, whether it's I'm proud to be Black or what's been done to us as Blacks, etc. Why do we sort of cling to those things for dear life, while it seems like white people are more so, even white people who clearly approach things from a racial standpoint, you can hear it with the things they say and the things that they are interested in, and the type of news channels and programs they watch and respond to. I give you an example, like a Tucker Carlson, or Megan, what, I forget her name,
Merkel.
but
Megan Kelly.
Not Megan Merkel. No.
Megan
Kelly, yeah.
Megan Kelly. Clearly, they have an adjacency, or they lean a particular way when it comes to race, but they would never say it publicly. And I find people like that in my everyday life. Like they mention certain talking points that are clearly leaning a particular way racially, but they would never cop to it. Whereas Black people, and these are white people, whereas Black people lean into whatever racial, if I'm Black power, all Black people are evil, I lean into that super heavy. It's obvious to everybody. If I'm a Black Hebrew Israelite, the white man is the devil, or NOI, that's what I. Whereas on the other side, that's not so, and it's accepted. Like it's accepted that they feel that way, even though they won't say it, and it's accepted that they feel this way, even though they probably shouldn't say it. So why do we have that dichotomy between the two, and do you see that ever changing? And I'm gonna mute out, let y'all get back to it.
Well, I'm gonna start with this. I reject the premise, because I don't think we lean on race. We respond to race. We are the racialized. Again, Black, there's no Black nation. There's a Mexico. You feel me? If for white people, all the different countries throughout Europe, you know what I'm saying, in the Middle East, because they consider white too somehow.
North Africans too.
Yeah, right. And so it's like everybody else, the question of like ethnicity and nationality and race is blended. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not necessarily ethnicity, but the question of nationality and race is blended with everybody else, not with Black people, not the descendants of slaves. Really, and shit, not even really, Africans, because they just all that ends up being conflated. And so what we're doing consistently is we have to understand race more than anybody else, because we face the biggest threat because of it. If one Black person is, and it's crazy, I act like this is a real text message. When something happens in the community, the police will send out a text message to the community type shit. When you got text messages that say, look out for Black male between 6 foot and 6'3" in a black shirt, every Black male in the vicinity is criminalized, regardless if they got on a black shirt or not. You could be a nigga that's 5'9" with a whole lime green shirt on, you still can be considered a suspect in that environment. And then how they choose to respond to you based on that will take your life. Like when Black mothers are telling their sons, yo, When them laws get their hands on you, there's nothing I could do for you. You are a black child. You can't move XYZ. That's not her leaning on race. That's her telling her child how you're racialized can impact how you experience the world. So you have to be cautious of how you move and how the world see you. It's the classic double consciousness. Yeah, I understand myself, but if I'm unaware of how the world responds to what I look like and how I wear my hair and how I wear my clothes, I can get killed easily. And that's not hyperbole. Like I'm not speaking, you know what I'm saying, like in the extremes. Like this is too common an occurrence for black people specifically. So like, yeah, this is something we pushing back against or reacting to. You know what I mean? We get called the race baiters, but we're the ones who are being racialized more than anybody else. And like white people don't even really consider white a race like that. Like unless they are on that, you feel me, like white pride, white this. Most white people who don't operate within those realms of extremism don't even really they see themselves as normal. Like they just see themselves as American. But we know when you say American, what's being assumed is you talking to a white person. Because if you're talking about a black American, you put black in front of it. So that's known.
Yeah. So here's what I would say. I want to start out by saying I disagree with most of what Domo said. But however, I do think that one of the issues is I think a lot of this came via what I view as an overcorrection to the sort of racial situation pre-civil rights era. And what I mean by that is that there was a lot of well-motivated but improper and incorrect praise of blackness for blackness' sake that made black folks think that they're particularly unique, including their experiences being unique. It's part of the reason why when I bring up people like the Irish or the Italians, right? And I'm not saying that the Irish were slaves. That's not what I'm saying. But when you talk about like even the goofy comment that Astral Projections made there, talking about, you know, the KKK and things like that, right? And that was what this country was founded on. That's not what this country was founded on. But even still, when you look at other particular groups like the Irish in Ireland, right, and their subjugation under the Brits for some time, for hundreds of years, been subjugated under the Brits for some time, or when you look at with respect to the Brits themselves being subject to the Romans for some time, or the Messenians subject to the Spartans, and so on and so forth. That what you have is really it's just one group want to dominate another group. But what happened is that we have been taught and inundated with this idea that our experience is particularly unique. And DMG, this is one that I've heard you say a lot, and so I told you I don't think it's correct. When we talk about the peculiar institution, what I think that a lot of black folks think is when they view slavery, they view it through the lens of race. They say, and this is unique, and this is unique, and so I think that a lot of that is
and that is why I pointed out straight up, like it's a lot of people experience what black people experience,
yeah,
and we don't even know they don't exist to the world anymore
exactly
because of their experiences.
Exactly. So, and you're talking about people who just simply flat out just don't exist anymore, right? But so I think so for me, I think that the problem like lies there, because I think if you see the Crimson Cord, you know, like the what's similar about all of these other people groups, these people with these experiences, people who've experienced similar things, some people who still exist today, some people who no longer exist. But when you think about that, I think that then you say, okay, so it's a common human issue what we're dealing with. This is a common human issue. And
Pedagogy of Oppressed, that's Paulo Freire. I need to read that. That's Freire.
And I think even if you were to frame this in terms of like what Domo's talking about, like even with the sympathetic to critical race theory or not, which I don't describe to, but I think that if you view it that way, then you say, okay, and so for me, I look at what other ways that other groups have transcended and that they've risen above. And for me, and so when I do that sort of examination, that doesn't usually result in a need for revolution. So for me, and this is why DMG, when you heard the paper that I presented at the university, right? Like, so this is why what I was talking about is being able to take cues from other people groups. This is also why I have a problem with multiculturalism, because I think that I should be able to pick up things from this group, whether they're West Indians or they're Asians, right? With Japanese internment or I can't remember what the group was called, kidnapped and thrown into camps during the Korean Wars. I don't know why the names.
You shouldn't get any flack from pulling from Native Americans because you are Native American, right?
But hold on, but then you hold on. You said this is why you don't like multiculturalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't like multiculturalism.
But wait a minute. Hold on. Aside from what you just said, which Domo about to get into, how can you, of all people, on this platform, not like multiculturalism when you are multicultural?
I knew he was gonna say that.
No, see, that's the thing.
You are amongst. I know this from your own admission. I don't know what other groups that you hail from, but I know these two for sure.
Yeah,
and Native American.
Well, no. See, here's the thing. I'm multiracial. I'm not multicultural.
Right. But those races,
okay,
come with their own social. I mean, their own cultural milieus, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah, he got a point though.
But being one doesn't.
Yeah, he got a point.
Yeah, but being one doesn't necessitate having the other, right? Like for example, if what in America to succeed.
So you don't care about the culture of African Americans or Native Americans, is what you're saying?
No. Here's the thing. So African Americans,
because I understand that you weren't necessarily exposed to them, but you could have exposed yourself to them, right?
No.
You didn't care to.
I don't practice Native American culture whatsoever.
You don't. Why not? You're not proud of it? Or you're not proud of it?
No, and I'm not an alcoholic either. So that's part of the reason why I don't practice Native
American culture. Man. Come on.
I'm Native. But listen, but look. But I mean,
you Native American. You know you're Native American, but you haven't sought out any of the... Like what?
You don't see a feather cap. I'm not walking there beating the drum either. Now watch. And I've went and seen these presentations.
Why are you bringing up stereotypes like beating the drum?
DMG, can you stop trolling this?
Go ahead. Let me let y'all rock. Let me stop messing with Leandre.
But in all seriousness though, like really, I participate in the larger dominant American culture. So I did things like I went and got an education. I really did try to clean up my speech patterns. I didn't want to be counterculture. And now listen, I can. I can participate, in the subculture, right? But I'm a part of the dominant American culture. So what I find
counterculture. I'm full every counterculture.
Domo, that's terrible. But here's what I do. So when I observe,
I want Ed to get in here too, y'all.
Oh yeah. Okay, now watch this. So and I'm gonna give these two examples, right? People from the DR and people from Haiti, right? One of those groups there, and I won't tell you which one. One of those groups decided to buck, the dominant culture, including and not limited to their means of commerce. They decided to get rid of certain fields and things like that would have, and because what they were trying to do was they were trying to return to an African culture. The other group that's separated by a very small body of water, very small little channel of water, participated in what the dominant culture was, and they adopted, by and large, Spanish culture, and at the very least, what was beneficial from Spanish culture, and then they moved on with that. And I think that there's a difference of about 6 times the amount of GDP between those two countries, and that right there is saying something. So I think when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. If you're going to come to Rome and think that you're going to act like, I don't know, like a Greek, I think that you're going to run into problems trying to fit in that culture. If I was in a different culture,
why didn't early Christians do that? Why didn't early Christians just pray to Roman gods when they got to Rome? If you in Rome, you do what the Romans do. Where would you be if they would have did that?
Well.
Let me stop.
Well, actually, I was actually going to say the Christians by and large did, which is why you have like the Roman Catholic Church right now, because by and large they did is they took on several things, especially the things that were useful from the culture, and getting rid of.
I should have known you had an answer for that.
Oh yeah, I got an answer.
But anyway,
now, hang on. Rocky, it actually is not. By and large, he says the Haitian situation is way more nuanced in that simple synopsis. Though no, and by the way, and this is not a red herring. Please stop. Please.
Nah, I want go ahead. Ed can chime in because
Ed, what you think of that?
On multiculturalism? I mean,
about the question of
why do black folks lean in?
Why do black folks sort of lean into racial issues?
I think Domo had a good point that it definitely is.
So you reject it as well?
I think there's an element that you ever notice how like rich folks dress down and they don't play up their wealth. Folks who have old money, they don't like walk around flaunting their money, right? Because they don't need to. It's the people that are showing their wealth usually don't have as much as the folks that really have it. They don't show it. And so the people that have power, they don't need to. You can. It's an insecurity thing when you flaunt it. And so it's a white privilege thing that we don't have, like again, going back to white Protestant dominance, which doesn't exist anymore. But if you go back to the 1960s, Walter Cronkite could speak for all of America, and you'd have one like authoritative voice, but he spoke to a dominant culture. He spoke from the perspective of the dominant white Protestant culture that occupied the critical mass in the center of society. But that critical mass is now like burned up, and like there is no critical mass in the center of American society holding it together anymore. And it's certainly not white Protestants.
They're the problem.
What's that?
I said they're the problem. White evangelicals.
Well, and so I mean, and on that front, people have left the church, and so the people have either left the church or doubling down on the church. And so, all the sort of casual Christians have all left, and the people that stayed behind have all doubled down and become far more fervent, right? And those are the folks that we were talking about before that are very insecure about like giving up their position of power in society and are acting in increasingly erratic ways because they're very nervous about losing. The Megyn Kellys of the world and Tucker Carlson are speaking very openly of their anxiety of that their position, that their privileged position is.
Y'all gonna get off of Tucker Carlson now.
What's that?
Y'all gonna get off of Tucker Carlson now. Not
Hey,
too much.
your boys are
Charlie Kirk, you name it. It doesn't matter. I'm just like picking out right-wing voices.
Those are his friends.
Speaking of their anxiety.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful picking on those guys in front of Leandre.
No. Tucker Carlson actually has plenty in common with Domo. Yeah,
Tucker Carlson is not like it's not that everything he says is nuts. I mean, he makes a valid point. I'm not a fan of him, but he makes some points that other people aren't making.
Yeah, I mean, but ultimately though, because we can't let Leandre run away from his anti-multiculturalism stance.
I'm all for multiculturalism myself.
All y'all gotta do
I'm all
is
for trying to soak up as much knowledge as I can from anybody. Any wisdom I can get from anywhere.
All y'all got, listen, y'all want to convince me? Show me a single place where multiculturalism works. That's all you gotta do.
The United States.
I think America is a multicultural country.
The United States has a dominant American culture, and what y'all just said here, and what both of y'all said, and Domo, you especially, talked about how you cannot express these other cultures. You said America doesn't provide a space for it.
Okay. But America benefits from it. That's the problem. Like as much as they don't like all these different groups, we got data that shows us, like if we just talk about in terms of business, like innovative revenue goes up like 20% when you have diverse managers, when you have a diverse group. We know that problem solving increases. It's better when you have more.
You're assuming
and the promise of America is a multicultural country. It's just we haven't lived up to the
promise. No. The modern promise of America is that you're gonna have multicultural society. But what you both are talking about is how there's all of this terror and things going on. It's why I'm saying it doesn't work. America works when you have a dominant. Every country, you have when you have. Listen, I don't care. Listen, we can look at other modern nations. We can look at Malaysia and China. I don't care if we look at India and Pakistan. I don't care where you go. When you try to blend these cultures, right, you end up with chaos. And so what we're talking about now is, and this is what the data and statistics show: racial attitudes, disillusionment with pretty much every area of life. Like these things are going up, not down. As you continue.
But why though? The reason why.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Why? It has nothing to do, and I know. So this was your point earlier. What your point earlier was, Domo. You seem to be leaning in that white fragility is the issue here, and so that whites are trying to maintain whiteness. And I don't think it has anything to do with whiteness, because I think that when you take, I think also when you look at a global and a historical view of things, this happens every time you start trying to introduce another culture. You start trying to introduce another culture, saying, and when you threaten culture, because again, I think societies fall apart without this consistency.
And so what
I don't know
of our culture.
Hold on, Dre.
Like Christian culture?
Yeah, Christian culture especially.
But hear me out though. What you're describing is the attitudes of the people. What's on paper, what's on the governing documents is multiculturalism.
But de jure or de facto? Because wait.
I would say de facto, because because the whole point is, I think I know what game you're gonna play. I do think I know what game you're gonna play, because you already kind of exposed your hand one time,
okay,
and make a distinction between multiracialism, you know what I'm saying, and multiculturalism. I see you attempting to do that, but the changes made to the Constitution and the laws that was put out was to make it more possible for those things to be expressed.
I disagree with that 198%.
Why they wearing kente cloths then?
Well, listen.
Why they wearing kente cloths?
They wear kente cloths during election season. They're wearing kente cloths because they were trying to get sympathy. That's why they were not wearing kente cloths.
So what does that mean, though? That means that you have to reckon. And this has been a failure of conservatives. This is why y'all keep coming up short. I'm telling you. Listen.
Conservatives are coming up short because, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because they're not willing to play the game. Listen, there is no multiculturalism.
What's the game?
I gotta disagree with you, Leandro. This country has always been founded as a multicultural country, and it's a promise we failed to live up to. We learned democracy from the Native Americans, and then we just stole the idea and didn't give them credit. We've been taking black culture all along. Soaking up every ethnicity. We soak up foreign foods, foreign cultures, Mexican culture. We love America's fundamentally a multicultural country. We just need a guiding ideology.
No. See. Here's the problem.
I've been wrestling with it.
Ed, you're talking about things that are cultural iterations, things that work, things that come that are expressions of culture, but not the existence of different cultures, right? So you're not talking about, like, for example, let's take a simple one, right? The view of rights in America. This is an Anglo-Saxon Christian view of rights.
I agree.
We do not even allow for other views of rights. Now, and let me give you an example. We could talk about international law for a second, right? The view that we have in international law is when we approach the ICC or any or the IRC, any of the sort of international commissions on rights, things like that.
Yeah.
The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is distinctly American Christian. That is a fact. No, listen. Look.
Tom Holland. He's been making this argument for a while.
The writers.
Leandre do not rep his set. Nobody can say Leandre don't rep his set. Go ahead.
The people who put it down for us to understand, yes, the concepts and ideologies are older than the principles of rights that we have today. It's not that they introduced. Come on now. Come on, Leandre.
Listen. Here's what I'm telling you, right? You trace the rights and things back to these rights and things like that go back to Europe. That's where they go back to. That's a fact.
They can go back. I agree that they go back to Europe. Europe isn't its place of origins.
That's exactly the point. Europe is a place of its origins, right? So what I'm saying is that when you look elsewhere, I tell you what, Domo, listen, here's what we're gonna do. Later on, me, you, and
we're gonna have to talk. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about rights.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a conversation about rights. Now, but here's what I was saying.
Part 3 of the politics of black folks.
Okay, yeah. Let's do it. Now watch this though. So let me just say this, and then I think somebody they wanted Ed to speak on something. Here's the issue. You don't have 75 languages being spoken here. You don't have 27, or you don't have 198 different views is the amount of, I think, recognized countries right now. 198 different views of marriage, views of equality, views of rights, and
That's like 3 or 4. Yeah.
so we don't have that. You actually have here, when you talk about things that makes a culture, you have one dominant view. You have one dominant view here with respect to everything. Speech patterns, a single style that we view for education, right? A certain single, there's one dominant view in how to interpret the law, right? And so you don't have multiculturalism here. You have people saying we should allow for multiculturalism, but then when you run up against, right, like something like my view of women is this. Like, for example, in my culture, part of my cultural expression, we knock women upside the head. We knock women's head between the washer and dryer. This is what we do. Or if I'm a Saudi Arabian, women in my culture, they don't drive, right? If you allow for Islamic culture, right? Women don't drive. We also don't take the word of women. If a woman is raped, she better have a couple male witnesses there if we're going to accept that. We have multiculturalism here?
Yeah, see, the
if
reason
so,
why,
tell me what cultures.
Because one, we have it, we're too rigid when we say like cultures and what cultures actually exist. You feel me? Because like even within American culture, there's many other ways in which that's reflected. Like because I say this about black people. Niggas in LA are a different set of niggas than niggas in New York. How they talk, how they think, what they care about, how they treat their women, how they talk to women, all of that shit is nuanced. Yeah, you can say, because I'll admit that, yeah, we are Americans, right? So in terms of like that dominant understanding, that's American. But the dominant ideology is whiteness. Because you just ran all you did. Hold on, because all you did is run away from the I guess what it is that we call American, right? But the concept that's pushing back against the multiculturalism is whiteness. It's not that the multiculturalism isn't here. It's that whiteness maintains its dominance by saying, like, when white people get mad at billboards that are in Spanish or that in Chinese or any other Asian language, that anger is a reflection of what is this difference doing here? Like like literally the racism, the hate crimes. We see multiculturalism. We just see how whiteness responds to these different cultures.
Domo, you need to explain the Malays and the Chinese.
What you mean the Malays and the Chinese? Which one do you explain about?
You can make it India and Pakistan, because here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is causally, if you remove white people from the conversation, everywhere where this sorts of thing is tried, there's blood pouring in the streets. That's a fact.
It's tried here, and it's blood pouring in the streets here.
Now watch this. Now look, let's take a classic example. And Ed, I mentioned your perspective. Let's take a classic example.
Yeah. Chime in.
What was the problem? What was the problem that the Romans had with the Christians? And y'all feel free to answer.
The problems the Romans had with the Christians?
Yeah.
I actually don't think the Romans. I have a little bit of a different take on this. I don't think the Romans really had a problem with the Christians. I think the Romans had a problem with the Jews because the Jews were seditious. But the Christians, I think.
So Ed.
I don't know. I don't know the religion shit like.
Well, so Ed. So on your view, Ed, the Romans did they perpetrate any sort of persecution of the Christians, spying on Christians exclusively, like naming them Christians, like Hadrian's, like hate?
They persecuted them niggas like. Yeah.
Well, I'm asking why? Why did they do that?
I've been studying this a lot lately, like early Christianity. So this is kind of a sidetrack the conversation. I don't know if we want to go in a different place. I mean, because I think this will just sidetrack the conversation as opposed to saying why did different groups have problems with
other groups?
Other groups, why they had a problem with the Jews because let's just stick with the Jews. They had a problem with the Jews because the Jews were seditious. The Jews did not want to assimilate into the Roman Empire. They did not want to assimilate their religion into the structures, and they were rebelling, and they got put down, and so. I'm talking. Yeah,
I'm talking post-Jewish revolt. I'm talking post-Jewish revolt. Now this is relevant because we're not off topic. I don't think at the very least. The Jews had been given allowances by the Romans on numerous occasions. That's a fact. They've been given allowances by the Romans on numerous occasions to practice and things like that. The Christians historically were, according to scholars like Ramsey McMullen, that they were viewed as one particular group. And so the Roman society, which I think is much like American society, has certain ways in which you're allowed this little window of expression over here, so long as the bulk of the culture, the bulk of everything that is over here, that this stuff right here is not challenged. That there's certain holy cows that I think that exist in every society. And so even if you allow for this group over here to dress like this no way to do this, blah, 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 the dominant culture is what it is. And so I think, again, there's subcultures, right, that are always allowed in every society. But with respect to the Christians, post-Jewish revolts, post-Bar Kokhba revolt and all this stuff like that, the Christians suffered persecution. And why? It's because they actually represented a challenge to the dominant culture. The dominant culture of the day, like they were, these people were polytheists. The Christians, by definition, and even though you had plenty of them, I think, who dibbled and dabbled all over the place, I think that's a fact. But the Christian represented monotheism, strict monotheism. And so that represented a challenge to the status quo of Rome. So you're now challenging the culture of Rome because you want to take them from polytheist to monotheistic. And because all of the other things that made for Roman society, the games, the fights, all that kind of stuff that went on in the Colosseums, the Christians wouldn't partake. The sacrifices, you had many Christians who wouldn't partake. Some of them would, because some of them, they were dibbling dabbling all over the place. But you had plenty of them who were saying, I'm not going to partake. That challenged the culture of Rome. And so even if we say that we're not talking about America right now, and we're not talking about whiteness because all the people look the same. We're not talking about nationality. Everybody's the same nationality, right? Majority of the converts and things like that at that time and at that place, these were Roman converts. Sure. Jews were a small minority of Christians. By the time Constantine hit, over half the empire, according to Rodney Stark, The Rise of Christianity, over half the empire itself was Christian, right? But what you had at that point in time was people bucking against the fact that what you're bringing in right here is the opposite of what we accept here in this culture. So you can't have a free-for-all. You have to have
there was a violent Reformation, and there was heated disputes over behavior, heated disputes over sex. The Christians brought in, certainly by the time Orthodox Christianity became mature, there was heated disputes with the pagans, and it turned into a real violent contest, which the Christians won.
But I gotta do this real quick, y'all, because Leandre is like, he always got to be, especially when he's sipping wine and he put his little pinky finger up, he always got to be the fanciest dude ever. And then I got to come behind him and be like, this is what he really means. So like in America, we got hip hop culture, we got rock and roll, we got goth, we got all of these different cultural expressions. Black people on New Year's Day make black eyed peas and neck bones. You know what I mean? And in the black church, is some things culturally that go on that don't go on in, say, the Lutheran church or other churches. His overall point, and stop me when I'm incorrect, Mr. Native American, sir. His overall point is that even with all of these subsects and of cultural expression, the overall cultural expression is that I'm an American. And if that ever begins to supersede, any of those expressions begin to supersede that I'm an American, then it becomes a problem, because that supersedes all of those expressions.
That's what I was saying before about first principles. We got to have some kind of agreement on first principles, and then from there you can have.
I'm about to die.
What's that?
So no.
Was I incorrect?
No, sir. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what?
This is the thing though, because like let's be specific here. When we talk about first principles, I'm with that, right? But America itself has two sets of first principles. The first set is the myth of open multiculturalism.
Now, Domo, you don't get to say this.
No. Why not?
Let him finish.
Because I say the myth of open, like accepted multiculturalism, because multiculturalism in the United States has always been white people taking advantage of other cultures, using the shit that other cultures bring, whether it's labor, You know what I'm saying? Whether it's understanding of the land, with all these other things to benefit themselves. White people didn't come to America knowing exactly what to do.
Elvis Presley.
Like white people did not come to
liked and reject the stuff they didn't like.
The people. They take the culture and they reject the people, right? That is the basis of whiteness. So again, they had this myth of multiculturalism, right? This whole land of the free, right? That even before they became a nation, these ideologies that they was operating off of, people was like, yo, how y'all move and what y'all claim to be about are completely different. And those two distinct aspects of America is, like I said, the myth of multiculturalism and being open to it, but the reality of how whiteness functions and how it's still white, because you trying to get rid of whiteness as an ontology.
No, I'm not. No, I promise I'm not. No, here's
okay.
No, so here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if white people didn't exist, the same reality, the same thing permeates everywhere you go. If you try to introduce these large scale changes, people are going to die, whether white people existed or not.
No, but see, again, that I think using like these older examples kind of harm us because we actually see
read the comment too.
That's a troll, bro. That's a troll. Like, that ain't.
Is he trolling?
No, yeah, that's a troll, bro. Like that's not even somebody. He don't even. It ain't even know. I don't even respond to dude. He's actually a fan. If I'm being honest, you know what I'm saying, he's a fan. But anyway, if you take, because what I'm arguing is if you take away whiteness in the context of how we see people exist today, multiculturalism would then be able to thrive. Because the letter of the law is giving its freedom of expression, giving its existence, opening it up, making it more possible for these things to be displayed. Now I get it, right? And this is what I be trying to explain to everybody. Our government don't do a lot of shit right. So when we're talking about like pushing diversity and pushing multiculturalism, they do a terrible job at it. It's very surface level. You feel me? So it's cool. It's cool. I like it. It's very surface level. It's very commercialized. Like empty gestures to say, hey, you know what I'm saying, we care. But if we look at how communities exist and how people move, and they people like, I'm not gonna deny the human nature of like resistance to difference. I'm not gonna deny that.
Okay, because it sounded like you were before.
No, I'm not gonna do that. That's why I had to stop myself before I went too far. Right? That's called being thoughtful. You feel me? I had to stop myself. But what we've seen, especially in the type of government that we have set up, and this is where people call me because I'm a leftist and I ride in more radical circles. But when I talk about how our government is set up and the principles of how our government operate, they can be very beneficial if you remove the whiteness aspect of it. It would leave room for many different people and many different voices to still to still be able to govern for recognizing everybody, right? Not to the benefit of one group. We can we can govern recognizing that. We can have different cultural beliefs and still need the same things as citizens.
So Domo, let me ask you a question. And this just to define the term, and I want to get Ed's response to this. When you talk about ridding ourselves of whiteness, what does that mean? Is that something akin to like returning to a more sort of tribal expression? Is this going to be like voluntary assimilation into particular groups based on certain commonalities? Like when you say that, like what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I'm specifically how people are viewed and characterized, how people are either valued or demeaned in dominant white society.
Yes. So what I'm asking is so if we change that, do you have an idea on what an alternative would be, or like would this be up for discussion? Like so if they say cool, like we're no longer whites, we are like how do you have an idea of how they would organize themselves? The people who were formerly, the people formerly known as whites, like how would they organize themselves? Do you have an idea on that?
Yeah, I mean they would organize themselves based on how they do it in random moments. White people like to be like, oh, we're really German. You know what I'm saying? Or my dad's like a third Swiss. You feel me? You have all these other aspects of your identity that you could lean on.
Yes,
that's not white.
So
like
it
being
be
European. Like
yes,
if you
so
say like I'm
European, more like the ideas that are in on the Eurasian continent, where Europeans like I'm German, I'm Scottish, I'm Spanish. They would do that. Okay.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, yeah, like their actual nationality and identity. Yeah.
And then would black folks do the same? Like would we or would we collectivize around like our shared like lack of sort of historical foundation and create a new one? Like what's...
So I think we've already done, because we ain't had no choice, right? So like the formulation of black identity was a necessity. It was a survival strategy. Like we had to find ways to understand ourselves, and that's why I think the biggest problem that we deal with is not that there is no black identity. Is that we attempt to view black identity as one thing. Like the way that I view blackness is like the possibility of, you know what I'm saying, identity period, from a people who was denied that. You feel me? So like our views. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I got something to say on this.
Yeah.
I think that we need to introduce new ideologies. The problem is we've been talking in circles with the same idea set, and not really making progress. And this is where I want to, we don't have time to talk about this today, but I'd love to keep this conversation going with you guys and talk about the Divine Mother and talk about how religion and spirituality are not being addressed on this conversation, like in general in public. And we should be talking about that, because spiritual identities and how do you were just asking, how do you organize yourself? Well, historically, people organize themselves around their religions and their temples and whatever religious faith it was. It goes back since forever, 50,000 years. People have been organizing themselves, usually around a spiritual ideal. And this is broken down in the Enlightenment in the last 200 years, but the need for religion doesn't go away. And I think we need a new religious reformation. I honestly believe a new religious reformation that is going to be very dramatic, probably will kill people, and that gives the opportunity for a new idea set and a new set of ideologies to be introduced into society that allows people to transcend race, because they start talking about something different. Like literally have a different conversation. We need to heal the open wounds. Like there's open bleeding wounds that still need to be healed. But like beyond that, like we need to like have a different way of talking to each other and looking at ourselves and viewing our own identity. As long as I identify myself as a white person, it's in contrast to a black person. As long as you view yourself as a black person, it's in contrast to me as a white person. But if we're all just children of the same mother and we're all just brothers and sisters, then it doesn't really matter and we can move beyond it. But you can't just get there by saying, I don't see race. We got to there's a process to it.
Okay, so Ed,
I do think it's going to be religion and spirituality are like not being addressed here.
Yes. So Ed, a couple things I'm going to say, and there's a couple questions I got for you, different ones. So I'm going to lay them all out to you, and then you can attack them one by one. But so one, I just want to say, like from the outset, I'm very sympathetic to your view. Now, I don't agree with your religious persuasion. I think it's kind of strange, but I'm very sympathetic to your view as sort of like aligning, and I think that this is what, where Christianity, I think, really shined. I think historically, and even like in some instances,
shined. This is where Christianity shined. Okay.
Yeah. Christianity really shined, and I think it's especially even up to America, and like even when the stuff's going on in America, elsewhere in the country where there was millions of Christians elsewhere, I think America is sort of like a black eye in that conversation. But as a whole, I think that there was sort of uniformity around religion. This is where people could find a sort of commonality, whereas the one place is if you came and you could set your identity aside. So I'm very sympathetic to that view. But and with that, like it's different than Domo's view, because where Domo's view sort of seems to sort of continue distinction, and it seems like society would be sort of organized around some of these new distinctions in racial categories, where, and I think like some of the things Domo was talking about was where you would have like leadership and things like that in these particular communities that are along the borders of certain shared identities and ideology and stuff like that. That's at least
real quick. You would agree though that like we're still heavily segregated, right? Like even with the option to live around each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like that form of tribalism, that's natural. And like that
in a lot of ways, the black community did better under segregation.
Ed, if you say that again,
I mean, I don't mean like the enforced segregation, but I'm saying like there was a lot of thriving Black communities.
He said in a lot of ways, DeAndre. You gotta let him explain which ways he means.
I heard a white dude praising segregation, and you know, just
no. I'm getting this from my Black friends who've told me about this, about how like
your Black friends are ridiculous. But go ahead, Ed.
Are you saying Captain K is ridiculous? Are you saying
Captain K is? Listen, I had this entire conversation with some people.
Don't do that, DMG. You know what he about to say.
Listen, I had an entire conversation with some people on Clubhouse the other day. He was talking the same nonsense, right? And then they had like a ridiculous metric, or what they said is,
wait. Before you say this, now I just want you to know, Captain K says before desegregation, we were thriving as a people. We had our own businesses. We had our own schools. And that Dr. King's love of white women and his push for the civil rights movement, which the motivation was that he wanted to be with white women, ruined us and put us.
I'm not making that point.
No. I'm preparing Leandre.
That's what Leandre used to hear.
Sure it's gonna be.
That's exactly what I'm used to.
Fiery comment. Go ahead.
So here's the thing, right? Again, so causally, these things didn't have anything to do with segregation. Now, these things happen. Like, it wasn't like, hey, we're segregated, therefore we're successful. That wasn't it. They were segregated and they were successful, right? So these things happen alongside each other, not because there was a relationship.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, fair enough. My point was just to reiterate what Domo was saying: when the community people choose to live together in your own communities, and like, and like birds of a feather flock together kind of thing.
So anyhow, I'll leave Captain K is a goofball and idiot, and I won't even get it to.
Wow!
But here's the thing.
Is that Captain Cesariak? Is that who you're talking about?
No.
One of his colleagues.
No. Captain Cesariak too. Him too. But
he was making these points.
But here's a question I got for you, Ed. So in your society that you've set up, right, where, you know, there's this alignment, you know, around the mother goddess and things like that. Here's a question I have for you. Would I be allowed in that society to introduce and to start a different religion that teaches the opposite of your religion? Would you allow for that cultural iteration? Could I do that in your society?
Look, I mean, if people are going to be teaching opposite things, they might have conflicts.
Okay.
I'm not a utopian or I'm not a Shangri-La utopian or anything like that.
Me neither.
Okay. Now, hang on a second. You two are both hypocrites. But last question for you, Ed. Yeah, hypocrites. Because, again, this is the sort of thing that, again, is why when we talk about multiculturalism, right, you have to allow for those sorts of things. And this is why, like, from a logical standpoint, these sorts of ideas, if you're going to have this sort of open society, right, you have to allow for the antithesis of your particular iteration. And so you can't do that. You're going to have to establish some limits. You're going to have to establish a culture that says, hey, here is the bar.
Yeah.
But Ed, here's a question I have for you, Domo, and I want to know what your perspective is on this too. But Ed,
because you're wrong about that, bro.
No. Hey, listen. I can show it to you. Listen, I can write it out in logarithmic form, but
save it for part two. Save it for part two.
But I could put it in a syllogism. But
and I threw in my private chat a little thing, an essay I wrote on. You'll enjoy this, Dre. If you look at the private chat on my Substack, there's a.
Okay, yeah, I see it right there. Okay.
Then there's my email too. You guys shoot me an email if you want to chat more. I'd love to keep talking with you guys. I don't know how much longer we're going to keep this chat going. But I mean, I can keep talking.
So I think maybe 10 more minutes.
Yeah. So
but I'd be happy to keep talking with you guys another time for sure.
Here's my question for you: Is it possible at all for whites, particularly white families, whites as a group, to be now free from blame and guilt for the particular instances of atrocities in the past? Is that possible? Whether for an individual, for a family, for a group of whites, for a tribe of whites, like what is it possible for anybody to be absolved within your sphere of white people?
I mean, with sufficient generations go by, I think the sins of the father wash out. I mean, are we hold to the sins of the Roman Empire? I mean, from 1,000 years ago.
Well, I think that's a relevant question. So how many generations, or like, for example, in your example,
right now, like we're not even out of the woodwork of like being absolving anything, right? So like we can't even say like how many generations would be, because we're still in the middle of the in the fray.
Yes. So as a related question too, and I want to get your perspective on this, because your family, they fought in the Civil War for the Union side, right? And they lived in the North. They were they guilty of the crimes of the Southern whites?
So I think racism was universal. I don't think we can really like absolve anyone really, even if it's shades of gray. I still think it's universal. It's only the slavery question, which is a very specific material question, that we can say one group did, one group didn't do. On all the racism stuff, I think it's pretty much a collective. I think it's pretty well collective.
Domo?
Repeat the question, because I had something I was going to say to your ass.
Here's what I want to know. So with respect to the question of the sins of the father, right? Just sort of like fatalism sort of thing, right?
Oh, okay. No. I remember what you said. Like, how long, right? So I don't think anybody today is responsible for anything that happened in the past. I think that whites today benefit from the atrocities that happened in the past. And so it's not that, you're held responsible because you were part of the people who did it. It's just more so because my ancestors experienced that, you get to experience this type of America. And I get to experience this type of America. And that can't be denied. So it's just like, regardless of whether or not you agree with why you have privilege, regardless of whether or not you believe privilege exists, if you see people disadvantaged, I mean, and again, a lot of the disadvantages that we talk about that are considered, people complaining have been, statistically proven. It's like that. Let's deal with today. I'm not even asking you to be responsible for what happened yesterday. Let's deal with today. Like, what role do you play today in deconstructing the paradigm of race that we have here today? Because most people just sit within it. Like they.
But you would agree that that's what you're saying is that there's a responsibility there, right? Like, even if you're saying like there's a responsibility there because what it seems like you're saying is that you're responsible, at least in the sense that you need to be doing something now because
if you care.
Okay.
If you care. So not all, because you telling me this, the argument that you're making, it makes sense, right? Like the whole, like, you need dominant structure, you need this, you need that. These are like very concrete formulas. The problem is you talking to niggas that's on the other side of that. So regardless of how much sense it make, as being a part of the group that's experiencing, you know what I'm saying, the disadvantage of how the popular, or not popular, but the dominant culture moves, that even what I'm doing is natural, right? Like the what's happened though is that the reason why these racial things are maintained is, like we talked about earlier, is because of systems of capital. Like was it Eisenhower or Lyndon B. Johnson? It was Lyndon B. Johnson that said, you tell a white man he better than the black man, you can keep your hands in his pockets all you want. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. So the real elites, the real dominant culture know what's up. And everybody before us, like, I ain't gonna say everybody, most groups before us knew what was up. All these struggles that we talk about have to do with the haves versus the have-nots. People get enough of not having shit, and then they flip shit over. But when you able to introduce a dividing principle like race, then the people that's supposed to come together to flip the tables, they're not gonna do that because they're too busy arguing about the racial shit.
So, Domo, is Ed responsible for doing something today? He's white. It's a white dude sitting over there. Is he responsible for doing something today? What should he be doing if he cares?
I mean, a part of it is like what he's already started, which is decolonizing one's
mind. It's Black History Month. How much?
I mean, I will say, I'll chime in on this one. As white culture's gone from being actively bigoted to the next phase, which was I don't see race, which was like basically how I was raised. Because I want to point out, we haven't mentioned, I'm not want to belabor the point, but I have a sister who's a woman of color who's adopted. And she was raised in sort of I don't see race perspective. She was just like sort of thrown into white family, white school, white town, only person of color in sight. And and we never, and no, wasn't hidden where she was from. Everyone knew she was adopted from India. But like we never really talked about race or weren't particularly sensitive to it. It was very much like the different Strokes, that TV show where the black kids are thrown in, just like raised in the white, like, here you go, kids. You're better off because you've been put in here. but we don't need to talk about anything else, and we don't need to talk about the fact that just because we weren't racist to her inside the family, she still had racist experiences out in the world, and we weren't all that sensitive to it. I'll be honest with you, we weren't that sensitive to it. And looking back, I'm still very close to her, right? And like looking back, we could have been more sensitive to it, and I don't know how much that would have changed things, but I know we could have been more aware. So I think as white folks are going from the cultural attitude of I don't see race, and at least some of us are trying to say, all right, how do we heal? We're into a different, more active conversation. Like, I'm not a big Ibram Kendi fan, but his point about like, if you're not actively doing something about it, then you're not doing anything about it. And so I think you have to be an active discussion of like trying to heal something. I don't know how. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. But
I would say, because I would say this, and I think like we sleep on the benefit of awareness. We sleep on the benefit of just knowing some shit and how much knowing can change. Like free your mind and the rest will follow. Like
no, you did not. No,
you didn't. But that's deep though, right? Don't act like that's not deep. Don't act like that.
No. Free your mind.
If you wasn't listening to everything In Vogue said, then I don't know what you was doing. If you was around in the 90s and you wouldn't have,
I can't believe he just
look.
But it's real though. Like when we change how we think, when we change, you know what I'm saying? Like when we understand that I view people like this for this reason. You feel me? Not because that's just how it is. Like even when when Leandre asked Ed a couple questions, Ed had to be like, damn, I got to think about that. Because a lot of what we do, how we say and how we move is assumed. You feel me? But when you start questioning things, questioning why this shit is important, then like that's actually putting in work. Now, I think it's with white people, it just take a lot of work. They just got to do a lot of shit. I could care less about white guilt.
I want to know if he guilt. What is he? As a matter of fact, here's a better question. Actually, and Ed, I wanted to ask you something you said, and this is something. And Ed, and you're the only person on the panel who could help me answer this question. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, it's Black History Month, and so here's what I'm asking. What is the difference from saying person of color and colored people?
Oh,
because you said your sister's a person of color.
I know, because that's the way the language is gone in the culture, and
that's why I'm trying to figure out
trends. And like, I don't have a specific nuance. I don't have a reason why I said it, except for that's the way that the conversation has shifted.
That's just multicultural liberal language. Like not even really like criticize. That's how liberals talk about.
And on that note, would you have called me the N-word back in 1920?
I mean, I wasn't alive in 1920.
Well, I'm asking. Let's say we were.
I mean, I probably would have been within mainstream conversations of the 1920s.
I just it's one of the things that always I don't know. So anytime I hear when somebody says person of color, I'm like, that's different than colored people. How?
I mean, what would I mean? How? What's the? I mean, you tell me. Like, what's the more like proper?
Ed, y'all invented these words. You tell me.
Well, not so. Again, and we can close out on this because I know we approaching that 10 minutes mark. It's really just again. It's really.
I mean, y'all keep it going. I said that for y'all because I thought y'all was about ready to wrap it up.
I got stuff to do. But it's been a great talk.
So I was gonna say, it's really one of them things where, like, because most people weren't called people of color. It was just black people. They were colored people. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so what's happened is that when for multicultural purposes, instead of referring to people as non-whites, which is what like a lot of scholars and philosophers refer to, like the other, anybody that doesn't fit within the dominant power structure that Leandre is saying that we should operate under. And so non-whites was more so dismissive of like the groups of people. Because when you're saying non-white, you're talking brown people. And so it's like, oh, well, brown people are like black people. And if, there are all these different brown people, let's just call them people of color instead of,
thank you, Domo.
Seriously. And so then they just, it's the same way we got called African-American, to be honest. It just became one of those things where people were trying.
Well, you got to blame Jesse Jackson for African-American for that title. Because they had a full-on push to not be called black because they were trying to give us a home.
Hey, I enjoyed this conversation other than Leandre's,
I want to know if he gonna call me colored again. But no.
other than Leandre's cultural appropriation because he's really Native American.
Wait, DMG Domo.
Other than his cultural appropriation, then I enjoyed the show thoroughly. I want to thank all three of y'all for coming on, but I want to read something real quick.
DMG, wait, please.
Not the man making me wait on my own joint. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You let Mudawak come here and run the show, but we ain't talking about that. But listen, here's the thing. Domo, let me ask you a question. What do you think, like, just of course, like as a starting point, right? Like in your position, and we're sort of talking about the sort of juxtaposition of like whiteness with non-whiteness, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, if Ed wanted to be like more informed, right, and if he wanted to sort of like to help in this conversation discussion, what do you think that he could call someone like his sister? And you say sister from India? Is that, okay, so like what could you refer? Like what would you call someone from these sorts of places? Would it be a juxtaposition of non-whiteness? Like what would you? How would you direct them?
I think what the thing that race does is it diminishes cultural significance, ethnic significance, and all of those types of things. And so I think that people should be called like who they are. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I mean, I should call her Indian.
So saying like he got an Indian sister. You know what I'm saying? Well, I have an Indian sister.
So Ed, here's the point. Here's the point. I've never been like when and again, I know this, it's like a thing that you people do, right? Like when someone calls
you people, what do you mean you people?
What do you mean you people?
When someone says to me, person of color, like, I promise, I kid you not, I almost beat up a PETA dude sitting outside of Macy's. I meet my In-N-Out Burger, and dude, he was like, and you're a person of color, and so what he did is, and then he thought he was saying something when he compared me to the hamburger I was eating, talking about with cows, and I said, no, hang on a second. Your way of not being a racist is by comparing me to livestock.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I said, and then calling me a colored person. So I just want to. So anyway, yeah.
I mean, because I'm gonna be honest, the last thing I'm gonna say on this is 2024. I don't even think the NAACP should be called the NAACP. Like, we not colored.
Right.
We black. Yeah. At this point, we black. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like,
what time is it over there? Why is it so dark over there? You finna pray or something?
Yeah.
No, it's all the lights on, right? Exactly.
Speaking of being black, though, this is from Ed or Gordon, and he's talking about Frantz Fanon's.
DMG, tell your sister where to follow me on Facebook.
I will not tell my sister where to follow you on Facebook. I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell your wife you told me to tell my sister how to follow you on Facebook.
Wow, that's crazy.
But
safe space.
But this is from Louis R. Gordon on Frantz Fanon's outlook on the difference between Black existentialism and European existentialism. Leandre knows existentialism is my favorite philosophy, but anyway, he says the discourse exploring Black existentialism compared with European existentialism, along with their place within humanistic philosophy, has been lacking in the field of professional counseling. What is missing is a dialogue illuminating how the European existentialists' suppositions of identity, freedom, free will, and existence do not critically apply to the lived experience of the Black individual or the Black collective. What does exist is what Fanon referred to as an existential deviation, where as a result of the removal of language of culture of origin, the Black individual and the Black collective have had to simultaneously define and redefine identity, culture, and existence. Given what I read, as you close out, break down how that kind of resonates with where we are in terms of the conversation of race. As we look at our existences overall, how race has sort of defined who we are, how we approach life, etc. Even in that absence of, as Fanon broke down, language of origin, culture and all of these things that sort of make a person who they are, we've had to simultaneously define and redefine these things. But we above, it seemed like anybody else, are asked to sort of behave and act according to a specific sort of rule book, when we've had to kind of write the rule book for ourselves as we go along. So kind of speak on that quote from Gordon, and you know, just kind of what your reaction to it is, and what it kind of how it encompasses the conversation y'all just had in my
yeah. So I'm gonna go first. We'll make the white dude go last. Here's what I'll say.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think so. For equity's sake, but they've been first a long time. But no, honestly, I think like, so one of the things I hear with that is that I don't know. I don't know that, like, so when Black folk, when we have these sorts of conversations about like shared language, history, and things like that, I think that even with that I don't think the Black folks are being honest with the fact that they're still viewing the world in a European sense, where heritage, things that these things occupy such an important place, and that we're lost if we don't have these things. I think that I just don't think that we're being honest with ourselves about the amount of ways in which we're influenced by the dominant culture with respect to these things, and so in denying it and in trying to accept it, I see an issue there. So I would just say too, though, that Black folks have, and I think it's just a human experience anyway, it's experience our own existential thrownness. We arrived in a world where we didn't ask to be, and I think in a physical sense, we didn't even ask to get over here. Like every other group of immigrants who showed up here on this continent voluntarily came over here. Whether you're talking about the Asians, the Swedes, the Europeans from different places. When you talk about people crossing the southern border, those people, everyone's coming here voluntarily. I was over there doing something else entirely. I was brought over here. My people were brought over here. And so we are, and I think at least in that sense, experiencing a different sort of existential thrownness, because here it is, I've landed in this place already. I couldn't choose my parents, my family, anything like that, my height, like all these sorts of things, phenotypical or genotypical expressions that didn't have anything to do with me, but here I am. I'm also my locale. Not only did I not choose it, but my parents didn't choose it, nor did my grandparents, so on and so forth, going back. And so at some point in time, there was an interruption in, in something that was going on over there, to where at least my location was changed. And I think, that what we see in large part really is Black folks trying to find their place in this, in the new world, in the new world, in the sense that it's just a new continent, but trying to find their place in the new world. So I think that a lot of the conversation, is that. And I just want to take a quick second to take a jab at, this is why I think so little of Hebrew Israelites, the Aboriginal communities, and even people who are claiming Kemet as their home, because there was a whole experience here that you're denying that your people even had, with being dropped there. So I don't know. I think it's there's really something to be said about us being here, and really just trying to find our way here. I think for me, that the way forward, at least from a success perspective, is to maximize your operational capacity and take part in the dominant culture. I think, if you want to succeed, take part in the dominant culture. I just want to plug, shout out to S.B. Fuller, the long gone and deceased brother during the Civil Rights era, opposite of Martin Luther King, opposite of Malcolm X, and as a matter of fact, boycotted by both, but who was a millionaire Black success at the time, and didn't think that either iterations of the Civil Rights movement were going to benefit him. I try to embody S.B. Fuller. So that's the way that I've figured it out, and it's why I have more money.
Next time I send you a bottle of liquor, I want some money.
Wow.
Since we low key bragging about your millions, next time I send you some liquor, I want some money. Go ahead, Domo.
Yeah. So, the way I think about it, in that vein, like in the vein of like Fanon and that line of thinking, it's like, I'm gonna use a biblical reference for this. It's like you gotta be in the world, but not of it. You gotta be in the world, but not of it. You have to understand the role that race plays, but it can't define your identity, right? Your experience is always gonna play a role in creating, in forming who we are, but we allow for these terms to, I mean, we've really been programmed to essentialize ourselves. You feel me? In how we look at these things, as opposed to looking at it like as us ourselves currently, like every day that we live and breathe, creating these identities and kind of showing like a new way of being. But because there's so much pushback by the dominant culture, we view it from the perspective of the dominant culture, not like we are not like we allow the slavery aspect of it and the violence aspect of it to over determine what it means to be Black. Even though we've created all this music, we've created all this art, we've created movies, we've created languages, you know what I'm saying? Like we've done everything that people who create culture do, but because we see it through the perspective of the dominant culture, we don't value it the way people value culture. And so I think ultimately it starts with us being able to recognize, like I said this the other day, I mean, I always say this is the most radical thing some like Black people can do is love each other. The most radical thing Black people could do is buy into Blackness, not buy into like what it like you're dark and that means this and that means like nah, but buying into what you understand about what you know Blackness to mean. The example that I use is when we talk about the word nigga. Like when we first hear that word, we hear it meaning brother, we hear it meaning friend, and sometimes we hear it meaning enemy, but we know that it has all of these different meanings. But then we go to school and they say no, nigga means slave. You are not a slave. Nigga means this. And so you have to reconcile with what you know from what's developing from the culture that you exist in, and then how the dominant culture wants you to understand who you are. You feel me? And being able to love who we are and love and embrace Blackness, you know what I'm saying, like unconditionally, that's more radical than anything else we could do. You feel me? So let's do that. Let's move in that direction.
Radical self-love.
Yeah. Yes.
And the man of the hour whose radical idea
is Black History Month. He's a guest.
Anyway, the man of the hour whose radical idea was to put this conversation together.
You don't want him to call you Garfield, though. You don't want him to call you Garfield.
Hey, you know what? It's all good. Garfield got a better accent, but I got a better voice. So shout out to my man Garfield. But my brother and my friend Ed Dodge, who had this, I think was a good idea for us to kick this conversation off. I think it's a lot more ground to cover, but close out this installment for us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me here, DMG and Dre and Domo. It's been great talking to you guys, and thanks to the audience. I'm just going to close that quick. I mean, I think close out with a quote from Bob Marley, quoting Haile Selassie, "Until the color of a man's skin is no more significant than the color of his eyes, I've got to say war." And I think that this racism stuff has been foisted upon us as a divide and conquer strategy for centuries. And there's the folks who are being divided need to like get beyond, recognize the toxicity of this entire conversation and find a way to get beyond it. Meanwhile, like we've got a ruling class that is intentionally fomenting it to this day in order to like do these divide and conquer strategies all over the world, not just inside of America, but outside of America as well. And this shit's toxic and it's tearing this country apart. And until we get this stuff resolved, it's going to be an open, bleeding, festering wound. Like a kidney stone that is like, really, really painful. And even the healing is going to be painful, but somehow we got to address it. And I think these conversations are just a way to just be a part of like stitching it back together. And that's all, for my little part, I'm just trying to like be on that side of things.
Yeah. How much of your income this month have you donated to a Black family? I have one in mind. If you,
Hey, listen.
I donate 100% of my income to my own family.
You got black kids?
I got 3 kids. They're not black kids.
Okay, well then you ain't helping. Okay.
Look, Leandre, I ask all the time. I don't know why you like this, but you are like this, and I just don't know why. I don't even know why I like you. But anyway, I want to say I appreciate all 3 panelists for coming on. I think y'all did a great job. I was only here I was listening, but I was only participating for a little bit, and y'all rocked it out. For my part, I want to say this. I remember sitting in the, you know how when you get through donating blood, you sitting in the little thing where they give you your snacks and you waiting for them to tell you, okay, it's okay for you to leave, I guess, because you didn't pass out. And I'm sitting around all these diverse people. It's a white lady to my right, and she's telling me how she teach French, and she's telling me how to say all of these, these sexy quotes to my wife, right? She trying to write them down for me. I don't understand none of them, but she writing this down, and it's a gentleman of Latin descent to my left, and then an older white man in front of me, an older black man in front of me, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, if you cut us open, it's all the same. We had these little differences between us, but for the most part, everybody came together to try to save lives. And me, I was my mother couldn't remember my blood type, and neither could I, but that was my main motivation going in. But then my daughter telling me all about it, and she's so excited, you're gonna save somebody's life, and I'm O positive, and we figuring out that our blood can, go to anybody, and this type of stuff. And it's like, who gonna refuse blood that they need based on the skin color of the person who giving it, except for a damn fool? The same thing go for an organ or anything else. And so the human aspect of the thing became more important, but the plight of Black people is still loom large over that. And how did we get to this point where we have this plight? And so this conversation especially was one I was really, really interested in, because I have that sort of that dichotomy of thought where I'm here as a human, and I see the value in seeing everybody as human and the commonality to that. But I also know very well the plight that my people have experienced here in our history, and I've experienced some of that myself. So I know how important it is for us to deal with that, and to start addressing that, and to continue to try to find solutions to that. So this was an important conversation for me personally to be a part of, and to listen to y'all break down. So definitely appreciate it. We're going to have another installment as soon as I can figure out how to get these brothers back on at the same time. And
yeah, you guys really asked me some interesting questions and made me think about some stuff. Ask me why I called my sister a person of color. It was like, I had literally never thought of that in my life. So those are good questions. I appreciate it. And it's been a stimulating conversation. I hope we can continue it.
DMG.
Yes, sir.
When was the last time you had hair?
Let's see. My daughter will be 20 Monday. And I remember I got a picture of her when she was maybe 2 months old. And I'm looking at this picture, and I remember seeing the picture, and my hairline was like right here. And I was like, I was doing this thing where in like April, I shaved my head, keep it shaved all summer. And then around October, a little bit after my birthday, I would grow my hair back out, try to keep it, tapered.
You grow your what?
You heard what I said, man. You heard what I said. Now, you the one that say this ain't a multicultural society, but now you're making fun of my country grammar infused culture. I don't appreciate it. And you're an Indian. I don't think you got the grounds as a Native American to make fun of an African American, brother.
Your sister said, first of all, y'all on borrowed land anyway. I don't even understand how y'all sitting there talking about dividing land or what to do with land that ain't even y'all's.
Oh my!
The
man talking about borrowed land.
Listen, and then he always do this thing where
how you feel about immigration, Dre?
He always do this thing because his too weak to keep their
yes.
land.
So I tell you what,
my people for being brought over here.
if the natives,
Then my sister, hold on, Leandre. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, my blood sister, same mama, same daddy. I'm drawing a line in the sand. You don't ever take this man's side over mine, ever, in anything. And that I miss your her thing. What you supposed to say is you look good bald, my brother. You do not give this man any notion that you took his side over mine. He is our enemy. I said our, not mine, our. You understand me?
Domo.
He is your husband enemy. He is your children enemy. He is your children's enemy. Okay?
I'm strong words there, DMG.
I'm just saying.
If the natives had a border, you'd still have over 500 nations here today. So I just want to tell you that. Now, DMG, I appreciate you letting me on. We talk White Dude Black History Month. I don't know why I chose Black History Month to do this, but Ed, you're a bold man.
Actually, it was my choice. I'm trying to be like Garfield. I'm trying to find like 30 other white people we could talk to for the rest of the month, but you know, I can't get Garfield Jamaican accent. And you know, I wear the Timberlands I actually wear the premium Timberlands. My brother Garfield be wearing them other joints where the sole is one color. But you know,
yeah. All right, guys, I gotta bounce. I really gotta go. But it's been a great conversation, though.
Ed has white people stuff to do. All right, y'all. Appreciate
it. All right, Ed, I appreciate you, man. I'll check in with you.
All right.
Shout out to my brother Garfield. Jolanda, I'm just messing with him. That's my man. But yeah, I definitely appreciate y'all coming back. We're gonna have to do this again. Y'all definitely threw me some bait out there for the goddess thing and the laws and all of that, the rights thing. So we got a lot of ground to cover. So we'll have to get to it. So I appreciate y'all.
Shout out to Sister Black.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
What?
You're doing too much. You're doing too much.
DMG.
You're doing too much.
Why
all right, Pete's family. Don't mention not a black again, man. You're doing too much.
All I said, you know,
you said what? What did you say?
I like her too. She all right.
You like what? You like who? Hey man, look. Don't you got some slim reaping to do?
yes, I do. Bye, Sister Black. I see you later.
Renata, me and you gonna have look. We gonna have a talk.
Leandre Spook Williams McBride on Facebook. That's Leon Elio.
Why is you telling her your Facebook, man? What?
Follow the panel. I was gonna tell her to follow Ed too.
Why are you telling her your Facebook? I don't understand. Don't you got some logical syllogisms to create?
Hey DMG, I just want to circle back. Your face when Nick was when he was doing logical calculus like
when I was like this.
Yeah, but look now look. So that's the problem, right? When people talk about logic, right? It's like they never had to do that. That's why I say like it annoys me. Like please stop, don't do that because you never had to actually sit and do the math of logic. Don't do it.
Tell her where she can follow you so I can end this show. Because I'm sick of y'all.
Matter of fact, watch this. Here it goes.
I told her to draw a line in the sand. Juju, don't encourage the foolishness. Don't encourage the foolishness.
Look, here you go. Follow a real one. You know what I'm saying? There you go. That's me.
I ain't giving you no more admin controls either. I don't even like that that's a paradigm shift.
Listen, what you let Mudawa run the show when he come up here, boy, and then I get up here, boy, and it's a whole problem, man. That's crazy.
And then you petty too. You keep bringing up Mudawa. You petty.
Because Mudawa wouldn't even let you talk. You know, you nice to Mudawa. You mean to me. This is an Indian thing.
Mudawa is my elder.
Okay. And he has a made-up African name too, so you really like him.
So now you got Juju following you. Now you didn't piss me off for real. Now I'm really upset.
Go ahead and follow me on there. Yeah.
This shit has gone way overboard now.
Well, DMG, you know, so I was on with the sis on the pseudo killers page thing. It was actually an interesting conversation. It was really I just joined the panel, but it was two people that were talking about. Yes, so they were talking about the subject of compatibilism versus hard determinism. So, you know, so shout out to the sis. You know, she was kind and polite, brought me up on a panel and everything. So yeah, you know, shout out to her.
Okay, so look, everybody follow my Native American brother. Very, very well educated young man. Come on the channel whenever I need him to. I definitely appreciate the young brother. He gets on my last nerve. If I had any hair on my head,
unlike some of the other people, I can show, I can show stuff. Unlike some of the other people, you know,
and he likes to brag, as you can see.
No, hey, no. You know what happens though. Listen, people get on here. You know, like you got people who lie about having certain things, right? You know what I'm saying? So I just, you know, it's funny to me, you know, because people lie about having, you know, schooling and education and stuff like that. So I just, you know, I show mine just so they know. You know what I'm saying?
And look, hey, my sister, I already know, and I told you y'all got Thomas Soul in common. So I knew once you got acquainted with the platform, y'all, you know, you was gonna gravitate to
humble flex. You know what I'm saying?
But the other thing is, literally, I was like, hey man, my man Ed Dodge want to have a conversation on race, this and that. I'm down. Just like it wouldn't even know what about race. I'm down. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I'll let you know when. So yeah, then you know, who else gonna come on here and put on they graduation cap?
Listen, I started to just wear the hood. You know what I'm saying? We was talking about race anyway. I started to just put the hood on. I'm in a different hood now. I'm from the hood.
Asking people of European descent what they call them the N-word, like you can't buy this for $1.
It's a relevant question because what he said was he talked about like this is the comment. Like, no, listen, that's not the same as something being moral, brother. You just called that lady a person of color, and like I think that apparently it feels better to white people say person of color than colored person. I just want to know why.
Until you said something, I never even tripped off because it do seem more polite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I never even tripped off of the whole, you know, what's different about it. So
yeah, so and like I asked the dude, the PETA representative dude, we were sitting outside of Macy's, and he kept saying, "You're a person of color," and he was like, "And you think you're better than that cow? So you comparing me to livestock and calling me a colored person, buddy?" He said, "I didn't call you colored. As you call me a person of color. What are you saying that I am?" And so, you know, like I just it bothered me. Like when he said it to me that day, I'm like, brother, you about to get, you know what I'm saying, mixed up because I don't know why you just called me colored. Anyway, it just don't make any sense to me.
Yeah. No, but it was a dope conversation. I'm looking forward to the next one. Ed didn't get, you know, it wasn't like the overly sensitive stuff. So
you see, he admitted he would call me the N-word if he was, you know, 100 years ago.
And that's what I'm saying. So he definitely got a lot more honesty and courage than the average person because they would have ran from that.
That's why I asked him pointedly, like, you know, said, like, are you running for office at any time soon? Because otherwise, don't answer any of these questions I'm going to ask you because I want to know.
Yeah, they definitely would have ran. So yeah, hey, we got I don't know if it's gonna be tomorrow or next week. I got to get some clarity. So y'all look at the channel for that. But we may have nobody versus Lord Benu tomorrow, or we might be moving that to next week. The brothers, it was a little miscommunication. One of them thought it was today, and they had something to do. I thought it was tomorrow. So if we can get that on tomorrow, we will.
No, hey, speaking of which, we live. Negro, why did you put canceled over my face with that conversation? So we have the conversation.
I told you.
I know. I'm asking publicly because I didn't cancel nada.
I told you.
This is a Ficklin Vineyards. This is a Ficklin Vineyards port.
Listen,
I drink port.
And while I got you live, I got a screenshot of you saying you was done coming on Paradigm Shift TV 314 for good.
Well, what I said is,
what are you doing on here?
What I said is I was going to stop coming on it after the debate.
No. That's a separate thing. I'm talking about on this screenshot. It
said after the debate, I'm done.
I'm done with Paradigm Shift TV 314 for good.
No, what I said is I said after the debate. That's what it said.
Yeah, after the debate. The debate is gone. The debate is over.
No. Listen, I'm still gonna give my presentation, but listen, because we live, because we put it out there, right? Now, listen, I'll tell you something. The two creatives you got who get on here and host your show, idiots. One of them, I think,
my capos.
Yeah. Listen, idiots. One of them, I think, is really like, and I don't mean this, like, no offense to anybody. If you
can't be disrespecting my capos, man.
Yes, I can. I do. Listen, I do what I want. But listen, here's the thing. One of them, I think, like I think he's like actively, like, like he's delayed and stuff like that. The other one, I always thought he was just a troll, but I really think like it's really.
Hey, answer Juju question too.
Which one? The kind of wine I'm drinking? Which question, DMG?
What kind of wine you drink?
Oh yeah. This is a Ficklin Vineyards. It's an old vine Tinta. It's their flagship one. The most recent one was rated 100 points, so it's a perfect port wine. The most awarded port winery in the world. I'm a member. They're 20 minutes.
You said you did. My bad.
Yeah. So anyway, but so you have those goofy people on here, and then not only that, but like these people have actually tried to set me up a conversations with people, and these have been like they like the conversations with DJ Shonsky. Again, these are people who clearly must be trolling.
Are you saying DJ Shonsky not worthy? Is that what you're saying?
I'm absolutely saying it's not worthy. Like, again, in 2 minutes into me listening to his presentation, he it was like 50 things he said incorrect, just off, just wrong. No point in wasting my time in doing it. And then you got like the Ratchet Craig, right? Who does not actually know how to moderate a discussion. They just don't know how to moderate a discussion. Period. Point blank. Full stop.
Yes, we do. Yes, I do. How you doing, everybody?
This one is the troll who I used to think. I thought he was a troll. I now realize he's special.
I just want to say this. I want to say this. It's an honor that somebody with 14,000 degrees will call you an idiot and get his books out and try to have a conversation with you about ancient history. And also, at the end of the day,
how many degrees he got?
Almost 17,000.
He said 7 last time.
I mean, he got a whole bunch of them. You see what I'm saying? He got a degree in imagination, which is philosophy. He got a degree in metaphysics. So he's like Jabari almost. And he's a conservative Christian. So I have to say the man has an extensive imagination. But it is an honor. It is an honor that you, my brother, at the end of the day, right, would spend your time with me, talking to me. Getting ignorant with me.
I don't spend time talking to you.
No, I know I was that much in your brain for you to bring me up, so I had to appear, brother. I had to.
Okay. So first of all, you were brought up in reference to a question.
I know.
Let me tell you something. No. I want you to hear me on this. You were not important to anybody.
I know, but
I mean, listen. Hear me out on this, Craig. Hear me out.
Okay, all right.
You're not important to anybody.
Okay,
nobody. If you disappeared from the planet,
I know,
would be at a disadvantage because you no longer exist.
Okay, I know.
So here's the deal. Like I said, I thought for the longest time you were a troll, and then I realized that you were special.
Right.
And special in the sense that
you mean like special in like the way LeBron James plays basketball is special, right?
No, he's talking about
the way Craig
special in the sense that
brings forth his information is special, correct?
No,
that's what you mean, right?
He's calling me special in a way where I'm just completely stupid and I shouldn't be able to pretty much talk or be on the internet. That type of special, right, Chief?
Yeah, yes. So here's the thing. I've never been of the opinion.
How dare you, Leandro?
Not everybody should have here's the thing. The internet, everything. With great power comes great responsibility. The internet,
what is he, Spider-Man?
Yeah, he think he's Spider-Man.
So here's the thing, right?
Who are you, Uncle Ben? You know he died.
Did you not hear his presentation with Sabio and the stuff that he was on here like big upping when Sabio was talking? This dude does not deserve to be able to click live on anything. He should not be able to present his content to any person. This don't make any sense. And Craig,
you and Sabio gonna have to have a debate.
Me and Sabio couldn't debate on nothing. He thinks AD stands for antediluvian. Sabio, listen, let me tell you something.
No, that was he misspoke, man.
Then why did he say that the Bible used to be called Helios Biblos?
Again, he misspoke.
He misspoke when he said there's no African word for a god.
check this out. Check this out. Check this out, Chief. Listen to me. I'm not gonna let you change the subject. I know you love to change the subject, and people don't know how scatterbrained you are. So I'm gonna.
Yes, sweater
You
vest.
just changed jerseys that quick into the show. You just got on here.
No, I didn't. But anyway, like I was saying, right? I'm just gonna put it to you like this, Chief. Leandre, I like you as a person.
I dislike you as a person.
But your wit is not the same as mine.
You listen. You ain't never. You ain't said nothing but the
as
truth.
Being a jester, and I won't destroy you.
I'm sorry.
That is your warning.
Say that again.
I'm not gonna say it again to a person that can speak English correctly, just like me. You heard what I said. If you want,
I didn't hear what you said. It's not that I didn't.
It.
It's not that I didn't comprehend your vernacular. I didn't hear what you said. Say it again.
Rewind it, Chief. I'm not gonna repeat it. But I gotta say this though. You had a great show. You know what I'm saying? I see you talking about me and the other Craig. I see we're in your brain. We got condos. But I just want to let you know, man, DMG, that was an excellent show with Edward Dodge. Leandre, you did okay. But Domo was the star of the show at the end of the day, right? And it was pretty great at the end of the day, man.
This Negro thinks metaphysics is about gravity. I just want y'all to know that.
I never
He thinks metaphysics is about gravity.
I never said that.
Yes, you did. You said metaphysics is about gravity and G-force and the limitation of the human body. You tell that to a person.
I know. And if I did say that, I took that statement back. And to be honest with you,
ain't no if, nigga. You tell it to a person who has a degree in philosophy, right?
In philosophy, not physics.
No. Exactly what I'm trying to tell you. What's covered in the field of philosophy. So when you come and say that metaphysics,
you're telling me there's scientific method in philosophy.
Excuse me. What I'm trying to tell you.
Yes or no.
What?
Yes or no. Is there scientific method in philosophy? Yes.
No,
or no?
No. Listen, the scientific method is lower than a philosophical scientist. Philosophical ontology is number one. Philosophical ontology is number one in the scale of the sciences.
Number one.
Yes. And I know you don't know this because you work at Amazon.
Are you for real?
How would you know?
I mean,
how would you know what any of this is?
I mean, Google, but at the end of the day, bro, I like.
Okay, no. See, here's the problem. You're a Google scholar. You're a Google scholar like the other one. You're a Google scholar.
No, hold on. I asked you, was there any scientific method in philosophy?
No. You said, is the scientific method in philosophy?
Is there
the
any
scientific method? The scientific method, modern empirical science, that came in that came in the 1500s. Right, with Francis Bacon and Rene Descartes. This where that's.
I don't know why you like this either, family. I don't know why you like this.
Rene Descartes. So listen, here's the problem: the scientific method, this modern empirical science. You don't even listen.
Modern empirical science.
Yes, modern.
I mean, the one that's advanced and it always gets to where we are right now in human history. You know, so you tell me that?
No. Listen, this is what I'm trying to tell you. You don't even know the subject that you're talking about.
I do know the subject. I'm just
you do not.
Have a hissy fit.
No, listen. There is no hissy fit. This is just me sunning my son.
Stop having a hissy fit, Leandre.
But you're only 4 years older than me. How are you sunning your son if you're 4? That doesn't make sense.
Because I got started early. That's how.
No, you didn't. You didn't start.
Yes, I did. Craig. Let me explain something to you. Right. Here's the thing with the with modern empirical science. It depends on axioms that cannot be proven because it only deals with empiricism.
But what about what's proven?
What I don't understand. I don't understand what the question. What do you mean? What about what's proven?
You don't understand the question. You understand the question. You know this.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is the problem I have
with you and your little philosophy. At the end of the day, you're acting like there's things that have not been proven through the science.
Yeah. Your little philosophy.
I really don't like when you do that.
So here's the thing. When you talk about things that have been proven scientifically, right? So as a matter of fact, I can give you a study. It'll actually tell you. As a matter of fact, there's an entire book called Against Method, written by a scientist who points out the fact that majority of what you have in modern empirical science it's all dependent on various other theories. Neither of which you can't prove the axioms of modern empirical science. Like for example, science aims at the truth. You cannot put truth under a microscope. You cannot view truth empirically. You assume truth and then you assume the correspondence theory of truth. You assume that what is true corresponds to what's in reality. So you assume that when you look at something under a microscope, that what you have there corresponds to reality. That's a particular philosophical position that you cannot put under a microscope. All of it depends on philosophy. That's not a question. It's not a debate. It all depends on philosophy. What you need is the philosophical sciences, like ontology, which is number one. You need things like logic, criteriology. Those are the other ones. Then you need things like mathematics, right? Which is not the same as science. Science uses mathematics, but science cannot prove mathematics. This is what I asked you when you gave the ridiculous answer. Does 2 + 2 = 4? This is the problem. You cannot prove scientifically that 2 + 2 = 4. And that's why I asked you, is it a priori analytic or a posteriori synthetic? And you answered properly that day. It is not. It is not a posteriori synthetic. You have to assume it. You cannot prove it. Certainly not scientifically. You can prove it philosophically, though. And this is what Bertrand Russell did. You can prove these equations that way if you adopt mathematical realism. But again, I know all of this is way over your head.
Actually, no, it's not. Because like I'm gonna tell you, right? I remember you told me, right? You was like, yo, get a mathematician and go ask him the mathematical probability, or her, the possibility of a sexual reproduction through a woman, just like how Jesus was miraculously born and stuff like that.
Yeah, where's the mathematician?
Now here's the thing, right?
Where's the mathematician?
No, here's the thing.
Where's the math?
Hold on. I'm not
mathematical
done.
realist?
I gotta tell you.
Let him get it out.
I don't know where the mathematician is.
Let him get it out.
I have to go, and I have to tell you this, right? Because I got to go back and working on my job on Amazon like a dumbass. I'm not splendid like you having like
not me.
Degrees. But check this out, right? So I asked that person, and that person told me at the end of the day, right, Craig, when it comes down to math, of course you can get various calculations, right? But one thing you cannot do is to get the actual solid proof. That is something that is biological.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't believe a mathematician told you that, because that's not even an answer to the question. It's not even an answer to the question.
Let's answer the question.
No. Listen, they're supposed to give you the answer to the question, but it's not an answer to the question I asked you.
So what would your answer be, Leandre?
No. Listen, you said I gave you my answer. You said you're gonna ask a mathematician. What you just came back with was not an answer to the question. That's what I'm telling you. It's the problem is, and you don't even realize that's not an answer to the question because it's over your head.
But how about you educated? Why isn't it the answer to the question? Why?
Because what I'm asking you is, I asked what the probability was. What's the mathematical probability? And you said that the mathematical improbability, you said that when something has a low chance, that means that it's impossible. And I said, no mathematician is going to tell you that. That's the question I asked you. What you just came back with was the biology.
Well, he wants you to be on that Batman from BVS. If it's a 1% chance, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
Yeah, 1%, that so-called possibility means it's not false. And basically what the individual said at the end of the day, I can't base it off of that.
No, sir. This is not the question. The question is, you said, and this is what I'm telling you, still going over your head. You said to me that if something has a low probability or low chance, you said that is then therefore impossible. I told you that your very existence, that if you went back, you tried to calculate the existence of closeted Craig today, that the probability that you would exist, for example, it's like 1 in 8 billion.
Who is closeted Craig? Who is closeted Craig?
The nigga in the closet. As we speak. He in the closet right now.
Wow.
Craig, come out the closet. Look, he about to come out. Look, now listen. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I asked him a specific question. He said that if something has a low probability of happening, that it is impossible. And I said, those are two different things. And he said, I know mathematicians. Go ask a mathematician about low probability and how this certainly means impossible. And then he said he was going to go ask a mathematician. The answer that came back with is not an answer to the question I freaking asked. The chance of Craig existing. Now think about it. And as a matter of fact, there's a biologist by the name of Andrew Sensenig.
Is he a Christian?
Well, he is a Christian, but check it. But here's the
bias as hell.
No. Actually, here's the thing that you don't understand. He's not a person who takes the Genesis account as being a historical account. This is a dude who's an evolutionist who said in a teaching that he gave on a mountaintop to a group of philosophers and scientists and people who were studying literature up there, who basically said he doesn't even believe he was in the plan of God. He believed that he just so happened. So you can't just come out and say he's biased. You don't even know his position. And this is what uneducated people like yourself do. You don't even know what his position is. The brother gave an example, and he went into all of the mathematics of his existence. And he's like 1 in 8 billion for existing. For Andrew Sensenig, or for you to exist, Craig, every ancestor you would have had to exist. They would have had to survive long enough to reproduce. And when you go all the way back through the entire time scale, that is exponentially small. The chance of you existing is so small. It's infinitesimal. So if what you're going to say is that it is impossible, if for something to be that small, by probability's sake, especially from the point in time he's calculating, to exist, then it is impossible that you exist. And that's why I'm telling you, that is stupid. You exist. You exist, even though mathematically, the chance of you existing is infinitesimal. Like, it's so small, you shouldn't exist. According to your view, if it's that small, it's impossible.
Wait a minute, Leon, did you just say infinitesimal?
Yes.
I'm sick of you with these words that people got to look up. Go ahead, Craig. Go ahead. What you got to say to this dude?
Yeah, all that's.
I caught the jersey change, so did Courtney.
I didn't change jerseys. Courtney, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. You should be at work. Check this
out. He wouldn't hear for the first one.
Yeah, but all of that is malarkey, Chief. Because at the end of the day, right, I'm still here. So
exactly.
Hold on. Calm down, brother.
Look,
chill.
Over here. Look where it is. Look where it is over here. It's up here.
Calm down.
It's on the high Amazon
wine, man. That's that wine, man.
It's on the high Amazon shelf. Get the forklift out and get it.
Calm down. He's
acting. That's that wine, Leandre. That's that wine.
He's such a savage. What's wrong with this animal? Anyway, boy, all this malarkey, Chief.
Hey, this
of course, at the end of the day, right? Chances of survival, stuff like that. Yeah, I get it, right? But based off of what?
American Dream. I don't have to look it up, but
I'm still here
with my brother, as I always do.
Craig.
I'm not Domo. I'm not here to be trolled.
Craig, Craig, answer the question. What are the chances? Let's go back to the Cambrian era. Let's go back a while. What are the chances of you existing from that standpoint? What's the probability of you existing?
I don't know. Slim to none.
Let's go back to the point of singularity when the universe began. What's the chance of you existing from that point?
I mean, I never existed.
You don't exist.
I mean, like back in the singularity. That's what.
I asked what the chance of you existing from that point. What is it?
I said it's none because I wasn't existing.
So it's impossible that you exist.
No.
Okay.
Because I'm actually here.
No. You're here now. What is the probability? I'm standing there at the point of singularity.
Right.
I'm doing the mathematics. What's the probability that Craig? What's your last name?
I don't know. McBride.
Okay. This dude's a homosexual. But listen, what's the chance that you exist?
Wait. Stop.
Why he give himself my name?
Stop.
Why he give himself my name? This dude just took my last name.
How did you get homosexual out of him saying his last name was McBride?
Out of him giving himself my surname?
I could be your cousin.
There's only one way that happens.
He can't be your cousin.
I can't be your cousin.
And then nobody knew your last name, so you just told him it was your last name.
No. I posted my last name in the thing.
Hey, okay, so but still, how come he can't be your cousin?
No. Listen, the only way that happens, either we're family, which we ain't, or since we're not family, if his name is my last name.
Well, who's to say y'all wouldn't family?
DMG, don't try to DMG. You
just said I was your son, and you.
I'm just saying, why did you jump to that?
You supporting homosexuality, DMG?
And you just said I was your son, and you started early.
No,
so,
I'm saying why did you jump to it?
I tell you what, Craig is either trying to be my lover, or he's trying to be my son. It's one of the two.
Oh wow.
I can't be your brother.
Which is it?
I can't be your brother.
No.
Wow.
Why?
I don't even like you. Like this is like
yes,
Craig.
You do. You're talking to me right now.
You admitted to me that you don't like your blood brother half the time. So
Craig,
hey, Leandre, that's
fine.
But
this one, Craig, but this one here, DMG, but this one here, this Craig right here, I like it's a distinct dislike and distaste.
Hey, between Google Scholar and me, which one you dislike the most?
What?
Between Google Scholar and me, which one you dislike the most?
Oh, it's definitely you.
Oh, Craig. Hey, listen, Craig. If you pass Google Scholar on his dislike list, you done did something special.
Listen, Craig, can you please answer the question? At the point of singularity, when the universe that we currently exist in, when it began.
I already answered it. But
what's the probability that you exist? Give me the number.
I don't have a number. I'm gonna say like 2. I'm gonna say 2 just for you. Since I had this jersey on that says 2. I'm gonna just say 2.
It's 2 what? 2%? 2 point like what? 2 what?
I guess you can say what? 2%.
Oh, yeah, that's not true. But anyhow, the probability that you exist today, Craig, is so small. And what you said before was that if it's that small like that, it's impossible. That's the actual probability that you exist.
Oh, okay.
And yet you exist. It's therefore not impossible.
Okay. So hold on right quick. Okay. So here's the thing, right? So I was wrong about that, and I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Right?
Thank you. That's all I want you to say.
I want to say this though. Then what's the probability of a woman having a miraculous birth like they had Jesus?
It's never
that
zero.
Was the whole point I brought this
exactly. And what I told you was at that point in time is it's never zero.
It's never zero.
Never zero.
So the black
it's
woman
closer to zero, but it's never zero.
Sexually and create and have a miraculous birth.
What?
You heard what I said. So the black woman is God. She can reproduce and having a sexual birth because it's not impossible. So it'll happen one day.
No. It's not that it happened one day. It's that it happened already. Just like you exist, even though the chances of you existing yourself, even via sexual reproduction, especially at the time when things began, you calculate your existence from that point in time that you exist, that every one of your ancestors would have survived long enough to reproduce, going back, let's say we take the scientific paradigm, millions of years, right? You shouldn't exist if by your definition it's impossible.
So with it not being impossible, and with you saying that it happened already, then it's possible for it to happen again.
No, it wouldn't be, because when you're trying to calculate the probability of an event, like let's say you're, and this is just basic math, right? If I take a coin, and let's take something that's 50-50 chance, right? Every time I flip a coin, it's a 50% chance that it's going to happen. There's 50% chance that it's going to happen each time I flip the coin. But the chances of me getting heads 50 times in a row, well, that's a really, really small chance that it's going to happen that many times. So what you have to do is, if you want to say that it might happen again, right? And this is without respect to the question of it being God and it being divine, or there being any laws that govern these sorts of practices. But the chance, when you try to multiply the chance of it happening even one time, this is even without the use of God, and it happening a second time, you have to multiply the chance of these two things happening together, and you get way more zero. So you can say, okay, so it may happen again. Well, certainly you could say that on a probability standpoint, but that's if we're excluding God. But when someone just says, hey, it's a small chance of happening, therefore it didn't happening, therefore it's impossible, yeah, that's not true. You can't sustain that in mathematics.
I mean, I say that's impossible at the end of the day. But
that's what you said, and I'm telling you it's nonsense.
I say it's impossible.
That's fine. You say a lot of things.
I do, but that's
a lot of stuff.
It's impossible.
So let me get this, Craig. So given what he just laid out, and then I got to get out of here. Given what he just laid out, why do you stick to saying that it's impossible?
Okay, first of all, what he laid out pretty much at the end of the day was nothing but pure probability, not evidence of it happening. And he does not have evidence of it happening because he's not telling the whole story. But the point is, what I'm saying at the end of the day, right?
Tell him to tell you what counts as evidence.
For example, right? You cannot have a so-called, well, even though I believe in the same thing he believed, like a fable or a myth, right? And try to use something like logic, philosophy, and then a mathematical equation that gives you some type of probability in order to make your story or your belief true at the end of the day, right? Because I believe you cannot use science to support God, and God can't use science to support itself. You see what I'm saying? So him doing that is very deceitful and facetious, and he's hiding behind the fact that he has degrees, and a lot of people don't know the words he used or the terminology. He's really just, like, at the end of the day, the same people of the conscious community that he hates, smoke and mirrors. So
maybe Jesus just turned his water to wine.
I mean, like, bro, we don't got no proof of that.
He was drinking the wine. He was drinking the wine.
That's the thing, bro. It's a difference if you believe that, right? But you don't have no proof of that.
He was drinking the wine. That's the proof.
Wait. See, a couple things he said. So watch this. Now, I want y'all to watch how this is going to fall apart.
I don't know. I interrupted him, though. So
no. Be that as it may. Craig, what does proof mean?
What does proof mean?
Yeah, watch this. Now, this is a very easy question. He said there's no proof, right? Now, watch this. This is an easy question. What's proof mean?
Something tangible.
No. That is absolutely not true. That's absolutely not what proof means. Not in any field where anybody uses proofs. Okay. Right? So if I talk about a mathematical proof or a logical proof, it does not have to be tangible. But you don't even know what you're talking about.
Hold up, Chief. Hold up. Check it out, homie. Check this out, right?
Courtney, I asked him that already, and I tried to point that out. But
check this out, homie.
Hey, Craig, how would I prove to you I love my wife?
Okay.
Just curious.
I'm
But your answer.
I'm gonna use DMG for an example, right? how this man come up here every day.
Just
and
answer the question about him loving his wife.
I'm finna say it, Sherlock Holmes. Chill. Let me get to the mix of my beat. So anyway, like I was saying, right? Just like how this man will prove love how he prove his wife, love his wife, right? What he would do, he'll get up here every day and talk about his wife. There's not a show on Paradigm Shift where DMG would pretty much at the end of the day not big up his wife or do a hurt for his wife.
Listen.
That's number one.
Listen.
That's number one. So you get that every day or every time he has a show.
That's proof to you?
Yes, that is proof.
So Craig, so what you're telling me is, Craig, so what you're telling me is it couldn't be the case. There's no possible way for it to be anything other than him loving his wife. Like, he couldn't be deceiving his wife. He couldn't be trying to get something. He couldn't be homeless, needing a place to stay. He couldn't be deceived. Like, there could be nothing deceptive. It is absolutely guaranteed, 100%, because this is proof, 100% a guarantee that the only way that DMG get up here and do all of this stuff is if he loves his wife. There's no possibility, not even one, not even a fraction of a percent.
No, hold on, Sherlock. Hold on, Sherlock. I said basically it's by the action and pretty much how much passion he put also into it. And every day.
Yes or no? I'm asking yes or no question.
I'm not doing little chat box questions. Hey, so like I said, so every day, right? He comes in and he pretty much in a lot of ways express how much he loves his wife and who he'll tear apart for his wife.
Does that indicate that he loves his wife, or does it prove he loves his wife?
Ooh, boy, you philosophers always do that.
Does it indicate?
How come it can't just be straightforward with you guys?
Because you said proof. Because you said proof.
And so
you're confusing proof with evidence.
DMG and the love for his wife when he gets on live with you and me, just like the proof that you're a wild barn animal.
Sir, listen. And Courtney just said the same thing. But listen, I'm telling you, like, this is a real distinction.
Shout out to Courtney.
Is this evidence or proof? This is a very simple question.
They're one and the same.
No, they're not.
They're one and the same.
No, they're not.
One and the same.
No.
Evidence and proof are one and the same, you said?
One and the same.
So when you talk about something that is evidence, you're talking about something that is evident. It's right there. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to prove to you that I'm holding a can of soda behind my back, the way that I prove that to you is by pulling it out. I then demonstrate that there's something that's here. Mm-hmm. Evidence is it. So proof is something that's not itself evident. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is the way it works in logic. So when you talk about proofs,
your logic.
No, not my logic. I tell you what. Tell me Amazon logic.
First of all, to be honest with you, Doc, I don't work at Amazon. Quit saying that.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I kind of rolled with it. You know what I'm saying? And
yes, you do.
Seriously, Andre.
Yes, you do.
Don't try to spread personal stuff because you're that petty. You're too tall to be that damn petty. That's a short nigga thing.
DMG, listen.
You is like 6'6", 6'5".
Yeah, he like 6'5". He should have played basketball. How the hell you that?
So, sir,
I don't think can you dunk?
No, hell no, he can't dunk. He uncoordinated.
Who can't dunk? I'm black and 6'5".
He can't dunk.
No, don't say that because Jacobus is 6'5". He black and he can't dunk.
Well, Jacobus is Jacobus is rare in that respect because usually if you're black you can dunk, and especially if you're tall and black you can dunk.
As a matter of fact, he's way blacker than you.
No.
So I don't know what his being black has to do with it.
Hey,
I don't know what.
Craig, final question, and I'm gonna run because I got stuff to do. I've been on it for 3 hours and 17 minutes. Craig.
Yeah, y'all know y'all gonna get y'all own show. Because I'm gonna cut this out and make it his own show. Craig versus Leandre.
There's gonna be a lot of Craig versus Leandre.
Man, listen, Craig. Okay, so
everybody on to you, Craig. Everybody on to you now.
Of course, everybody's on to me.
Craig, let me ask you a question.
What's up?
What is metaphysics?
Study of the natural world.
I'm off. I'm out. DMG, I holla at you. I'm out. I'm out.
Again, man.
All right, Leandre.
Classic Craig. You didn't ambush the show. You didn't change jerseys like 8 times.
Change jerseys.
You denied for some reason. It's like yo wearing glasses is Clark Kent. And people acting like you're not Superman. I don't know what that is, but anyway, what's up with you and Leandre, man? And this
what's up,
adversarial thing y'all got going on.
Listen, he's 34. I'm 30. You see what I'm saying? My thing is, you're not a good Christian until you reach.
Feel like he don't want to pass the torch to you, man.
I don't even pass the torch. He never had a torch. I'm just taking what I want.
Oh man, you taking it, huh?
But see, I'm gonna tell you this, right? You know, ladies and gentlemen, last night I learned a very valuable lesson. You're not a good Christian until you're pretty much in a lot of ways 39 or 40 plus. If you're somewhat in the age of your early 30s and your mid 30s or your mid 20s, you're not a good Christian. You see what I'm saying? Because a good Christian would forgive you, say you my brother, and we are together in Christ, instead of come up here and show his degrees and slander you and talk about how much a person is an idiot. Jesus would never do that unless you try to blaspheme him, disrespect him, and belittle him. But, you know, at the end of the day, most Christians' excuse is, oh, I'm not perfect. I'm not Jesus. Well, damn it, get like him. At the end of the day, because you're going to turn a lot of people away from his light because you're such a damn narcissistic, I have 1,400 degrees jackass. But anyway, it is much love for Leandre. You see what I'm saying? It's just he just never
subscribe now.
Individual that is not gonna fall for his. I'm very intelligent and I have a lot of degrees and I sound like I deserve to be on Bill Nye the Science Guy's channel. You see what I'm saying? Like he's like I it's fascinating. I never met a dude talk like that or practice to talk like that at the end of the day, right? But you know, so my point is, right?
Are you hating on Slim Reaper, man? Is that what's happening right now?
That doesn't deserve no hate, brother. You see what I'm saying? I really feel sorry for the brother because he trapped. But my point is, right? It's no disrespect with Slim. I just wish he'll stop trying to slander me a little bit, because every time he says my name, I took a page out of his book, I'm going to pop up. You see what I'm saying? When every time a person says Logic and he pops up, every time he says Craig or idiot, I'm going to pop up and show him who's a real idiot. But, you know, he's more the idiot because he actually talked to a person that he feels an idiot. So I guess it makes him feel like that way. But mind you, DMG, I do have something coming up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I do have a Loud and Clear coming up with the one and only Robert Ash. We are going to talk about a lot of interest. Ash is a very, very, very respectable man. Great Christian. He actually upholds the faith. I am going to enjoy this.
Wow. Did you really just do that?
Yes, I did. He actually upholds the faith. He's actually serious about it, and he's not masquerading. Very professional. So, you know, I'm going to have a lot of decorum with him. I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to say bad words. I'm not going to even say the N word. So pray for me, because it's very difficult at the end of the day, right? And he's not afraid to be challenged. And not only that, right? He can put himself in other people's shoes instead of trying to judge them from afar. Like, he's not the type of person that pretty much have his accomplishments all the way up here and try to brag and show everybody, because no one cares in his own neighborhood that he has 400 degrees. So he doesn't have to come on the internet and try to pretty much act like he is somebody when he is not. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, shout out to Slim Reaper. That was for you. But yeah, I'll be getting with him this Sunday, and I'll get a time, so we'll be able to pretty much get it rocking and rolling. I believe Courtney, shout out to Captain Cold Cut Courtney of the Dagger Squad. He's going to be getting with my boy A1, you know what I'm saying, from Astro Projections and the whole effing show. So they're going to be having a dialogue. I got to see when that's going to happen. But yeah, it's a lot of powerful things happening on Paradigm Shift. This is where the challenge meet the challengers and the challengers meet the challenge. So yeah, it's getting there. So please support us, like, share, and subscribe, and do it over again. Please support us so we can grow and become bigger, because this is neutral ground. Not just any type of neutral ground, a walled sovereign state that is neutral ground. So yeah, that's all I got to say, DMG. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. With that being said, family, we out of here. Stay tuned for that separate video of the Slim Reaper versus Classic Craig. We'll be putting that out a little later on. I'll keep y'all updated on whether Lord Benu and nobody gonna have that dialogue tomorrow or next week on does Christianity hail from older religions? They tried to have it last week. Our brother Nobody had some technical difficulties. They was gonna try to get to it again this weekend. We had some miscommunications. One of the brothers thought it was today. Maybe they can do it tomorrow. Maybe we have to push it out to next week. Either way, we will get that on either this week or next week. Peace to my brother B. Wash in the building. But hope y'all enjoyed this conversation. For those who didn't catch it live, hit it on the replay. I would love for B. Wash to be a part of the next one. We are going to have a follow-up to this one where we continue to talk about race with our brother Ed Dodge, the political plug Domo, A.K. Dre, also known as the Slim Reaper, also known as Mr. Logic, better known as Classic Craig's adversary.
He's not my adversary. My son. I'm his father.
Oh my God. He said he's Luke Skywalker and he's Darth Vader. So with that being said, family, we're gonna get on up out of here. We'll be black at it again. That's peace.
Yeah.
We out.